wasn't looking. Chris Williams in here says, glad to see your guys' mental health is holding up so far. Hey, Chris, glad you're here, man. Let me know how that Auburn-Cal game went. I stopped watching when Peyton Thorne threw his 54th interception of the game, so let me know how that game went. Jance, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very interesting game to watch. You know, you saw Florida, man, in terms of their coaching staff with Todd and obviously with Golden, and obviously with Golden. I mean, you know, Bama fans, we got to be familiar with Golden because, you know, obviously that was the guy that was responsible for Jalen Hyatt, you know, scoring those 5 touchdowns and 285, receiving yards on us, and just and continuing to just catch us, you know, miss a line because we just didn't know what to do. I mean, Pete Golding, Nick Saban, we did not know what to do, because that pattern match defense, it could not match out that veer sort of offense where they're just going to split you out all the way out wide. And, you know, if your interior is not really the best, if you don't really have the inside linebackers that can cover space, then they're just going to gash you. They're either going to gash you, or they can absolutely just stretch the field on you. So, you know, South Florida, man, they missed a lot of opportunities in that first half. And, you know, I talked about it on with Coach Sean's show, that, you know, this game could have been different if their quarterback just had a little bit of accuracy, just a tiny bit of accuracy. You put Bowling Green's quarterback with South Florida that day, we might have been down by 2 scores going into halftime. It was that bad, and how they were just getting over the top and catching us off guard. You know, especially, you know, I had to go back and watch the game too. We were misaligned a lot, and they caught us off guard a lot of times. And you know who was getting misaligned the most? It was our true freshman. It was our true freshman. That rotating 5-6 defensive rotating 5 to 6 defensive backs caught us off guard, because you can't really settle down. You don't really have the continuity in the chemistry, especially when it comes to community. The secondary is the most pivotal, man, because of communication. You got to communicate in the backhand, in terms of, you know, who's getting who. If you're switching, you know, what sort of coverage are we going to be in? You know, what particular area am I supposed to be in, especially if we're playing zone, right? You know, it's a lot that goes into it, man. So communication is extremely important in the back end of your secondary, and we got caught off guard a lot in that first half. Now, I would say defensively, man, South Florida did a really good job of keeping us in one base defense. Like it was rare to see Jaheim Otis on the football field. I mean, I had to go back and I'm like, man, Jaheim Otis I didn't see him get a lot of a huge snap count. It was a lot more of our defensive tackles who was, you know, for the most part. And, you know, I thought we made some really, really good adjustments of doing it. But a lot of the times we were just, you know, when you're going against a mobile quarterback, normally you don't want to rush your defensive tackles, even your edge rushers, like up the field to get to the quarterback, right? Because you want to play in your gap. You want to be gap disciplined because of that. Because if you try to rush up, you try to rush upward, the quarterback can break free of the containment, rush up the middle. You know, he can roll out the pocket. Like it's very hard, especially with the quarterback in Brown, who's mobile, who's very, very strong, who can break the arm tackles. You got to be very, 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 very disciplined when it comes to your containment. And that's something I just didn't think that we were doing. We weren't really containing. We didn't really, not just from a player discipline standpoint, but I would just say from a schematic standpoint with Womack. I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Womack respected the quarterback. I don't think Womack respected his mobility. And it was kind of shocking that we didn't really make those adjustments to really start to contain that dude into the second half. And even then, he was still going ahead and gashing. I think we were so reliant on the speed of our linebackers, knowing that, you know, with this 4-2-5 defense, you have linebackers that are fast. You know, Justin Jefferson, who else? Who else I'm trying to think of?
Campbell,
Jahad Campbell. There we go. You know, Jahad Campbell, Deontay Lawson. You got a lot of speed at your linebacking position that you're just saying, you know what? These linebackers can do both. They can cover their assignment, and if that quarterback starts to break free, they have enough speed to kind of cover ground. And I think that we just didn't really respect South Florida's offense. And I think that we kind of and here's the thing, I don't think Bama's defense played bad. I thought Bama's defense played a really good game, but this thing could have got a lot worse, especially in that first half, if South Florida would just capitalize a lot on our mistakes. Now, offensively, it's just, yeah, I mean, I tell you right. I mean, we were caught off guard a lot. I mean, the fact that Tyler Booker, your best guard, had to move to left tackle because you don't know who you lack depth. I mean, we're just gonna call it the way it is. You lack depth at the guard spot. You lack depth at center. You lack depth at tackles. That was my one concern going into the season, was if one of these players goes down, what the hell is going to happen? Because if Jaden Roberts goes down or Tyler Booker goes down, do you have the horses to go ahead and replace that production? And with Caden Proctor being out and this Bama staff not really having the confidence to put in Pritchett. Now, I don't know if Pritchett was banged up or not. Some people are saying he was. Some people are saying that he was healthy. I'm not too sure. But the fact that we didn't have the confidence to put in Pritchett at that left tackle spot, and for Tyler Booker to move out there, that was the concern. Now, Formby had a terrible game. He had a terrible game. It is what it is about that. Pritchett's going to be playing that right tackle spot, and it is what it is. But the concern that I really have the most, I know a lot of people are going to be bashing on Jalen Murrow. It is what it is. I know what Jalen Murrow is at this point, right? And I think that if we can have a controlled offense, more of a offense that can run smoothly, run efficiently, he can be the quarterback that can run this offense effectively. But my main concern is this offensive line, because if one of those dudes goes down, we have not shown the ability to replace the production. And so I'm very concerned if a Tyler Booker or Jaden Roberts goes down, or even, what happens if Pritchett goes down now, right? Or if Pritchett doesn't play good, then you're stuck with Formby and Pritchett, and you got to figure out how you need to compensate for that right side of the offensive line. So if one position group screwed it all up for us and South Florida was able to bring a lot of the pressure, then what is going to happen when we go against the Georgias, the Texas of the world, right? I would even say the Oklahomas, teams that have better defenses than South Florida, or have better personnel than South Florida, that they can send 5 or 6 dudes and even get more home to the quarterback or affect the backfield. So that's my main concern overall wise. But again, we just got to figure out and see what happens moving forward.
100%. And one thing I will do here, because I see Scott, you're worried about the secondary. Womack had a great answer about the secondary and the receivers getting behind them. He said one of the times, and it was whenever Red Morgan was in coverage, they forced the inside release, and that threw off the timing of the route because the guy wanted to release outside. Red made him go inside. That threw out the timing of the route. But yeah, you definitely don't want that to happen. 2, the other time where Zabian got beat, Kane was like, that was on us as a coaching staff. USF runs the most plays per minute. If you look, they have the highest tempo in college football, even higher than Tennessee whenever they're rolling. So they trotted out a wide receiver, and Bama didn't really get time to sub like they wanted to. And they attacked the same corner on a deep route. And he said, we didn't just get the play in time. And we kind of left Zabian in a position where he didn't know whether he was supposed to be up, over, he didn't know what his assignment was. So hopefully those are things that can be fixed. That's what I want to see. I do want to shout out Kiltack for how much do the penalties play a part in affecting offense's rhythm? A ton. Thank you for the $10. From my understanding, yeah, USF blitzes at a rate that's just not normal, 60+% of the time, which is why if you figure it out, you torch them. You absolutely torch them. But they just attacked an offensive line that's kind of shuffled around. But in terms of the penalties, Alabama had a great game plan early, in my opinion, whenever they were doing the underneath, but then it would be 2nd and 12, 2nd and 15. They just could not help themselves. And against a Georgia's not going to give you those opportunities, right? To rebound. If that's the one thing that I'm most concerned with is the penalties. That's got to get fixed up, because the game plan early I thought was solid. Now, Coach before I pass it to you, I do want to get this take up here, because Chris, I love you, my man, but we almost put you in timeout for this one right here. Thank you for the $10, Kiltack9. Chris says Thorne was playing injured, and his receivers weren't helping him. He's still the best pure passer in the SEC. He just needs help.
Oh my.
Oh.
I almost put him in timeout for that.
Oh my.
You can't take some people serious.
Hey man, you believe what you believe.
I almost put him in timeout for that.
Everybody has their opinions.
Right.
Scott, I disagree about this. I was watching on the back end, and I don't think that WKU was smoking our defensive backs. Our defensive backs did a solid job in coverage. And listen, they haven't played a Georgia, a USC, but so far they've allowed some of the fewest passing yards per game in the nation. Once again, they just haven't played a team that can really test them. Coach I, what was your thoughts?
So, as some of you know, I was in Lexington, Kentucky all day watching South Carolina beat up on the Wildcats. But I caught some highlights, and I got more questions than I do, I guess, comments.
Fair.
For example, again, because I didn't get to see it from start to finish, what's going on with 13 penalties in the game for Alabama? Like, what was this, offensive or defensive? I mean, that's a lot of penalties against a South Florida type team. That's a lot of penalties.
That's too many penalties. To answer that question, the officiating in that game was wild, right? For both sides. They were really hammering the penalties. I'm going to send you one of the penalties, Coach I, just to let you know what we were working with. So I'm about to send you that through Twitter.
The Formby one?
The Formby one.
It was horrible.
But then it was also, so you know, Coach I, they have a mobile quarterback. Right. He's running to get the first down. Jahad Campbell pushes him out of bounds as he's still 3 yards inbounds, and they call Jahad Campbell for a late hit.
Yep.
The guy was clearly inbounds to where even the officiating crew was like, what? Right. What are you supposed to do? Just let him run by you? A lot of the penalties were legit, but it got to a point where if Formby sneezed on somebody, flag. And then Aaron Murray did a great video, and in Aaron Murray's video, he was even talking about like these South Florida DBs were holding on to Bama's wide receivers, completely taking the jersey off, and the refs would be staring and swallowed the whistle.
So something I used to tell my teams, especially like more so in basketball, is you got to learn how the ref is calling the game. And however the ref is calling the game, you got to adjust your play, maybe first quarter or so. I also heard that the offensive line was more to blame than Milroe. I think Jance was talking about, mentioned some of that and depth. This is going to be a long season. That's what I'll say. If you don't have depth on the offensive line, depth at any position really, but especially the offensive line, because Jalen Milroe to me needs a little bit more time to process than some of the other quarterbacks that I hold him in regard with, not just every quarterback. So if the offensive line is not playing up to par, that's definitely going to be a question going forward. And I guess the 16 points by South Florida, I mean, that's you hold somebody at 16 points, you got to win regardless. I just want to know what took so long for Alabama's offense, even if the offensive line isn't holding up in pass protection, to get started for 3.5 quarters. Like, if nothing else, hey man, at the end of the day, let's call some Milroe runs.
They were 190 yards and 3 touchdowns were taken off the board by penalties.
Got it. Yep. Okay, because I'm like, when in doubt, run Milroe.
So the one I just sent you, if I'm not mistaken, this one right here, Milroe went for a huge gain.
77 yards for a touchdown.
Call back by Holden.
Yep, but look at this holding call they did. The defensive lineman went over his skis, fell down, and Formby laid on him, and they threw a hold. And that's what Bama was working with all night. It got to a point of being comical. Now, like I said, a lot of them, more than not, were legit. Not contesting that, but it was just incredible. No, Coach I think you're well placed, and there are questions. There are.
Yeah. Like I said, even somebody said something about the back end of the defense. Regardless of how it looked on Saturday, if they hold the team to 16, like as an Alabama, as a Georgia, as a a contender, you hold somebody at 16, you expect to beat them pretty handily, to be honest. South Florida just got up, sound like. Their quarterback only threw for 103 yards, though. I'm like, why couldn't we adjust to put more people in the box? And like Jan said, you got to have rush lane discipline. You know what I'm saying? You can rush him, but you definitely got to be disciplined in your rush lanes because you can't let him get out of containment. But he threw, it was like 15 for 38. Like, dude was horrible in passing. and he only had 103 yards. So I don't know. Again, I mean, Ty, I know you'll give me the 22 that I need so I can really look at it. But just off the strength of it, that didn't sound very good.
It was one of those where the majority of South Florida's offense came in the first quarter and a half, and then they got the touchdown they got in the second half. Coach Bama fumbled the kickoff. Kendrick Law busted a huge gain. I mean, we were about to be on the 50-yard line, fumbled the kickoff, held them to nothing. The next time J.M. Miller runs the ball, fumble.
I saw one. Didn't Milroe fumble as well?
Fumbled on the one.
Right.
Where we were about to score. So that was kind of the game. But after I thought the first quarter and a half, for the most part, they did a good job of containing. But there were times where against a mobile quarterback, Jans hit the nail on the head. You can't crash the interior when they're doing these reads. And whenever Bama didn't crash, they negated everything. When they did, they busted it for 10, 12 yards. So, Coach Sean, talk to me.
Here's the deal, man. You know, the truth is in the details, bro. You know, I've heard a lot of different things from a lot of different Bama fans. You see these glasses? I want y'all to see these. They not crimson. They're not crimson.
They are beautiful glasses.
Thank you. You know, I'm gonna give it to you straight, brother. Never late. You know what I mean? I'm a Bama fan, but I didn't go to Alabama, so I don't love Alabama enough to lie. You know what I mean? It's just one game, right? Let's make sure we understand that. We had 2 games total. We didn't play very well in that game. It doesn't define the season. Let me get that out the way before I have somebody in the chat talking about you're not a real fan. You know how you people do. So let's be real. Let's be real, bro. You know, Alabama's offensive line was shitty boo-boo, straight up. South Florida didn't do nothing special. They lined up. They found a weakness. They started stunting on his side. You know what I'm saying? They did the same thing I would have done if I was going against Alabama. Wilkin Formby is going to be a great player down the road. You know what I mean? Not and not even down the road, shortly down the road. Wilkin is just young. He's just like Caden was last year, man. It is a big step, brother, from going from high school football to college football. I understand he's a red shirt freshman, but he's never played in a true college game. You know, he's played in practice, had some pass. What does Coach I, you know this, Coach Jay, what do all offensive linemen from high school struggle with? What's the first thing they start to do when they get beat? They lunge. That's the first thing they do. They pass set, get off balance, and then they start to lunge. And when the lunging don't work, they start to grab when the dude. So the things I saw from Wilkin is normal for a young offensive lineman. Wilkin don't need to lose confidence. Wilkin will be better. I had the same conversation with people like me and Coach Jay and Coach Smook on another show, had the same talk about Caden Proctor last year.
And Caden struggled against South Florida. He struggled. Yeah, he struggled.
Give him time, man. He'll be just fine. His footwork was a little bad. His pass set was a little lazy. You know, the defensive end, the edge rushers kept getting on his side. And once the offensive lineman's shoulders are straight and the edge rush, you know, Coach, I get on your hip, as we call it, it's over. You ain't got no trouble to turn and try to push him past the quarterback. So it's just fundamental stuff, bro. That stuff gonna get fixed, man. Trust me. The young man had a bad game. That's a very good coach over there, man, that saw something and he stuck with it. He and what I like about this coach, he's proven to me that if he finds something that works, he gonna keep doing it until you stop it. Go ask us Tennessee 2 years ago and go ask DeMarco Helms. They kept getting caught on the hash by himself against Jalen Hyatt. Until you stop it, we'll run it 12 times. We don't care.
Smart.
And that's cool. That's fine. So here's the deal. Lunging, pass set problems, kick slide, laziness, all that can be fixed. Wilkin will be fine down the road. With repetition, with practice, Wilkin will be fine. I'm not worried about that. But here's the thing that I do not like. Jalen Milroe, you know, it's a hell of a weapon. Hell of a weapon if he used the right way. Hell of a weapon. But I need for Jalen to see the entire field, bro. You know, I need for Jalen to really, and I get it. He was getting hit from everywhere. He panicking. He trying to get the ball out. As soon as the guy Damn, a 3-step drop. If he do a 5-step drop, they in his lap already, right? So I get it. I get it. But here's the thing: when we did have time, it was one incident. I think it was either late in the first or early second. Kobe was coming on a little slant. DB started playing press. He slowly backed out of the press. Kobe hit a slant. His defensive back tried to turn and fell down. Kobe wide open coming across the formation. We didn't even look at it. Didn't even look at him. I mean, he was the middle of the field was nobody there. The one safety they had took off the other side of the field. He had took off covering somebody on the other side of the field. We had another situation where I think it was Kobe or either Kendrick Law ran a little sluggo route, a little slant and go, fake the slant, go, boom. Defensive back for some reason kept watching Jalen. Kobe ran right by him. He wide ass open. I'm talking about, bro, if he just threw it. We kept forcing the ball to Ryan Williams. We kept throwing the ball to Ryan Williams. I get it, bro. He's a great talent. He's a great freshman. He's going to be awesome. But, brother, you got other weapons than Ryan Williams, right? It looks to me like they're trying to make Ryan our number one receiver. Just what it looked like to me, right? There were several times Kobe, and he was getting frustrated because he threw his helmet on the sideline. I get it. Kobe was killing his man. We have got to find a way to see the entire field, man. We only looking at, we're going from 1 to 2, 2 ain't there. We're taking off. I get it. Pass rush will do that to you. Getting hit will do that to you. I understand. Ran a little double out with Kendrick Law. Double out, man, which is a very difficult route to run, right? Out route, then you release vertical. Very out. Dude turned him his DB around the circle. We didn't even look his way. Didn't we hit I think we hit the tight end on some little short pass then. Brother, the plays were there to be made. Don't think they weren't there. Go watch if you can watch the game, this is what I do. Cut the sound down and watch the receivers. Don't listen to the sound. Cut the sound down and just watch every play and watch the receivers. You know what I'm saying? So we got to be able to utilize all these weapons, bro. We got to be able to open up the offense to where we can utilize everybody. So, it's enough improvement to go around to everybody. And I'm talking about coaches too. um that team really, really pressured us a lot. They didn't do nothing special, man. Stunting, blitzing. They really did the same thing they did to us last year. Bring pressure. Let's pick on their offensive line, the young guys on their offensive line. Let's see if we can confuse them. And let's play the numbers game and see what happens.
Coach,
right?
he's got to start calling up protections. He does not do that. Like, they weren't even disguising anything.
They weren't even disguising. It's a whole fact.
They're just showing. They're literally showing you what to do. Do something. Do something. Slide them. Do something.
Flip the running back to that side. The corner came up to the line of scrimmage, man. He didn't back out. He blitzed and he hit him. The jam was on this side. He see the dude coming. He's acting like he's coming. We didn't flip the protection. We didn't do nothing. We just said hike and took the sack.
Especially with Formby, they're stunning on the outside, right to him. They're showing it to you. Yes. I understand Formby's having a bad game, but you could have just flipped the running back over so we can try to at least help Formby out. I don't know.
You got to do something in that situation, man. And I think it's coach. What's up, Brinsky? And I think it's coaching as well. I think it's a learning experience for everybody. The one thing I'll tell the fans is the coaches are still learning this team. I know how it is to get to a team. The spring game, you think it show you this. You really don't know until the lights come on, man. So the coaches are still learning what works, what don't work. But I will say this, man, the future is bright. I saw the same thing last year. I saw them look completely discombobulated, right? They got better. I just want to see us utilize the weapons we have, man. I don't want to get fixated on Ryan every single play. I get it. I caught Jake. I was texting with Jake and Ty like through the whole game. I said, brother, the hitch is there. When the DB back, the hitch is there. I said that in like the second quarter, bro. We never threw with a hitch. It's almost like we were scared to throw it. Finally, in the fourth quarter, Ryan ran a hitch. It was actually on time. The ball came out when he was still running the route, broke down, turned around. He caught the ball so quick, he had the time enough to make a move, touchdown. So it's just repetition, bro. You know what I'm saying? Repetition, practice, things like that. All these things that we think are bad will help them in practice, and they will be better, man. Those are all fixable things, but you got to get the correct 5 offensive linemen out there. Damn all this musical chairs. Leave Tyler Book at guard. Don't put him in. I thought that was ridiculous, right? But, hey, You know what I mean? I would lead a man at tackle. Guard. I would lead those three: Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, Tyler Booker. Lead them boys alone. Lead them right where they're at. Right. I don't care who you got to put at tackle. Wilkin, Miles McVay, whoever, Pritchard. Lead the interior where it's at. Right. So I think all this stuff could be fixed, man. But I do want to see the coaches do a better job on third down. And I do want to see Jalen start to extenuate his vision past just one receiver.
100%. Killtack9 asks, is it possible Milroe has started learning the offense and that's why he isn't calling protections? Maybe a very small part, because it is a completely different passing game than we were doing with Tommy Rees, and Tommy Rees isn't exactly known as a QB coach. But I think it's just one of those things where it's just got to be done. At the end of the day, it's just got to be done.
He's got 1 year left, man. I mean, he's got to learn. He's gone.
Yeah, he's got to learn.
He's got to learn how to do it.
Now, the one thing we were talking about in the green room, because I see Scott saying they should start with the short passing. Through the first few drives, they were.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you had the short connection, you had the screen to Jeremy Bernard, you had a screen to Ryan Williams, you had the short pass to Caleb Odom. You got Jeremy Bernard involved. He tried to hit Jeremy twice on deep shots. But one thing I want the viewers to understand, and Coach Sean and I were talking about this, I would have loved to have seen them modify some things and get some mesh concepts going. But one of the reasons why Jalen kept looking deep, whether it was Ryan Williams or Jeremy Bernard, is because they were in a cover 0 or cover 1, single high safety, all corners up at the line of scrimmage, press man.
Yep.
In a lot of instances, if you're a quarterback and you've got the speed on the outside, you're going to be like, okay, if they want to give us the deep shot, right, let's take the deep shot. But at the point where it wasn't working, then it's like, okay, well, let's run some mesh. Like Coach said, let's run a hitch. Let's do something to get them to back off. John, what's your thoughts? Thank you for the $10, by the way, Killtack.
Yeah. I went back and I've watched this game 3 times total now. And kind of like Utah, I do feel a bit better about the game. The things that really confuse me, and the first one I think is a media problem. South Florida's not given enough credit for what they did. They showed up and played, right? So I think they're not given enough credit for just showing up and playing Alabama. Like Coach Golish said, they didn't play the logo. They actually played this the way you're supposed to be played. The second thing, when I went back and really looked, I pointed this out in my video on this, was I don't understand why Formby was never given any tight end help, a chip block, something. It's almost like they were so impressed by the Western Kentucky game, because when you go and look at that game, Formby did amazing, right? He almost had no issues at all. Into this game, they pretty much left him on an island and then almost gave Tyler Booker help on the left side, right? So that one kind of confused me a little bit. And I feel like a simple fix, mesh routes, like running backs to the flats, hitching goes, stuff like that. It's just simple things that we could fix. But where are the bootlegs to get Jalen Milroe out of the pocket initially from the beginning of the play? If they're bringing pressure and we can identify the pressure, why don't you just bootleg away from the pressure? It's hot routes, quick adjustments you can make at the line at that point. Jalen Milroe is not a freshman anymore. In my opinion, I think there is no real excuse, because at the end of the day, right, the protections are pretty much going to look the same where the defense is going to line up. I feel like there's just too many excuses being made for Jalen Milroe, and I'm not trying to pile on to what's going on, but the guy has been at Alabama for what? This is his 4th year, I believe, right? He's a redshirt junior, or no?
So that's his 4th year.
So, I mean, protection is protection, right?
Granted, Bill O'Brien tried to move him to wide receiver and coach him, so that doesn't help.
No, and look, he's had his struggles, just like a lot of quarterbacks have had their struggles. But I feel like there's just a lot of simple things that we can fix to correct a lot of problems. As far as the back end goes, look, we're not going to face any other team like this except when you face Tennessee. Plain and simple, it goes this fast. And Ty, to your point, they said they run 3 plays a minute, which is the fastest in college football. They're basically lining up and set at 15 seconds, which is ridiculous, by the way. So, yeah, that's really all I took away from it when I went back and rewatched it. I think, like a lot of people can say now, I think you feel a little bit better when you go back and rewatch the game. But at the end of the day, the simple adjustments weren't made in the game, which is my cause for concern, by the coaches, even at halftime, right? I felt like the defense adjusted way quicker than the offense did, and the offense was just too slow to realize what was going on. Like I said, move a tight end to the right side to help form you a chip block, or simple, just move the running back over on the other side, like something simple. Because like I think it was Jan said, it's not like they were disguising anything. You saw where the blitzes were coming from initially. You have 15 seconds in that helmet to hear everything that is going on. So are we not pointing this stuff out? So I don't know. It is kind of frustrating, but
Ty, so I'm listening, and I know we not to be a Jalen Milroe apologist or anything. I do have a question. So, like Coach Sean, you said to not look for Ryan Williams as much. Again, I haven't seen the 22 yet, so I don't know. But are the other receivers creating separation? Somebody on here said, I think John said they were playing press man, or maybe Ty said that.
I said that.
Okay, if they're playing press man, is Ryan Williams the only one that can seem to create separation? Because
no,
I was about to say, because Kalen DeBoer's offense is predicated on good route running. I mean, and if you can't run good routes and you can't create separation, then his offense isn't going to do a lot for you. So that's just another question I wanted to throw out there, and I don't know if anybody had an answer to that.
Prentice is open.
Okay. Yeah, it seemed like to me whenever you had and Coach, if you ever get a chance, go watch that Aaron Murray video, because he did a really good job of, like, there were times where Alabama's wide receivers, quite frankly, didn't gain separation. Okay. From when I've watched the all 22, I do kind of disagree. It wasn't as much separation as I would have liked to have seen. Now, there were times where Kobe Prentice was screaming open, right? Like, that absolutely happened.
So fact.
But it looked to me like whenever Ryan Williams would break off the line, you know that phrase, if you're even, I'm leaving? Right. Well, he would have the cornerback in perfect position, man underneath, single high safety. Milroe would throw it, and it was just one was missed. The other drew a pass interference. The other one was missed, and even Aaron Murray in that video points out, like, I don't know how in the world that wasn't DPI. Williams' jersey is hanging off of him, and the guy's just, like, literally beat, and he's just hanging on, running behind him, hanging. It looked to me like whenever Milroe saw that one-on-one with Ryan Williams, but he also did it with Jeremy Bernard, right? So whenever he saw that one-on-one, he was like, that's where I'm going, and he didn't move past that first, which is why I said it's kind of an interesting, game to look at in that aspect. So, yeah, it was really interesting, right?
Look, let me say this, Ty. When I say that, I'm strictly speaking to if you have things underneath wide open, we don't got to chunk it downfield every time.
True.
We just kept trying to get it all back in one play. You don't have to do that, especially when they're baiting you to throw it deep, and then you end up throwing it, and it end up being two people on Ryan. You got underneath stuff that's wide open. Let's just take it. If they give it to you, that's what made Bryce Young so well. He's gonna take what you give him, and at the last, if we have things open, just take it. Take it. You'll see that will open up your deep passing game later on in the game.
Right. That's part of being a good quarterback, is taking what the defense give you.
Yep.
Especially if it's early downs, you know what I'm saying? First down, take the 5 yards, now it's 2nd and 5. You know what I'm saying? So
that's why the Michigan game went the way it went, because it was to a point, if you go back and watch the game, they were giving up the underneath. They just do that. Jalen Milroe likes to go beyond the second to third level. That's where he wants to go to the most. They just knew, like, we'll give you that first read. We'll give you that open read, and we'll see if you can diagnose it. We'll take away your first, but we'll allow everything to go underneath and see if you can target it, because we believe our athletes can tackle yours, but Jalen Milroe never tested it. So it was just oh boy. It's like if Alabama wants to get to where they want to get at, he's got to get better. He's got to step up and take it to the next level. He's got to become the quarterback that I thought he'd become under this DeBoer offense. But I will also say this about killing DeBoer and Nick Sheridan. You got to stop holding that dude's hand. You got to allow that. That was my issue with the first week, was that we could not see if he can develop. Is he taking the next step as a quarterback? Is he processing the information that they're giving him on the football field? Is he going through all his reads? Is he going through the check down? If the blitzer, if blitz is coming on one side and that inside slant, I keep going back to week 1, when the inside slant, they're giving it to you. They're showing you blitz off. You're seeing it, but what does Jalen Milroe like to do? Rolls to his right, because for some reason he never likes to roll to his left. He always likes to roll to the right. The defender automatically knew that he likes to roll to the right. So instead of just going straight, he actually kind of plays in a more like contained position, saying, "Oh, okay, well, I'm blitzing, but I'm not going to go straight for him. Instead, I'll just kind of go to where I know Jalen Merrill likes to diagnose, instead of just Jalen Merrill staying strong in the pocket, getting off that first read and targeting that inside slant. He's got to improve. He's got to get better, man, because otherwise, if the goal is to win a national championship and knowing how this playoff structure is, when you're going to play 3 games in that playoff. If you win the SC Conference Championship, let's just take it the way it is. The conference championship game, that's a playoff game, right? So you're playing 4 games against top quality competition, great defenses, better defensive coordinators who prey upon that. You're gonna have to step it up. This is not gonna have to be one of those years where Michigan, we're gonna have all-time great defense, and the likelihood of you play, you're probably seeing like one great offense the entire like Michigan and Georgia did. No, you're gonna have a mixture of playing against great offenses, great defenses. You're going to see a mixture of different looks that are going to be frustrating you again. Man, you got to get better. You got to get better, plain and simple, man. And, it's like I was easy on Jalen Merrill last year, man. I'm not easy on them this year. This is your last year here, man. You got one shot opportunity, and then we're moving on to Ty Simpson. So you got to step it up, man.
See, I agree in part, but like I said, after watching that all 22, where I do disagree for both games is Milroe's going through progressions, right? Like whenever he hit that Ryan Williams touchdown week 1, that was read. He went read 1, read 2, read 3, saw that Law was clearing out that back safety, back to read 2, boom. You could see the helmet going like this. You could see that stripe on the helmet, like Coach I said, going through the progressions. I don't know that whenever push came to shove, in the early portions of this game, they were giving him those underneath looks, and we were taking it, right? Like the Caleb Odom pass. I thought that was beautiful, some of these screens. But whenever Alabama started getting behind the sticks, that's when it seemed like from a play call perspective, everything was going deep. Everything. Because they were like, okay, it's man underneath, single high safety, let's go. And that's whenever it just wasn't clicking. So I don't fully disagree, but I absolutely think he's taken steps forward, right? It's just to what degree we will see. I just don't think that the help was given from a play calling perspective whenever you didn't hit the first 2 shots, and now it's like, okay, now let's give him those underneaths that we were doing so effectively. But in fairness, whenever we were doing those underneaths, we'd have a successful first down play and then end up in 2nd and 12, 2nd and 20, 2nd and 15. I mean, so many of those penalties came on those first downs that you were second behind the sticks. You were second in a mile. And it just kind of felt, Coach Sean, you said this, that they were trying to get it all back. And not only Milroe, but even from a route combination perspective, it looked like they were trying to get it all back in one play. So listen, Wisconsin's going to be a great test in terms of it's an away game. Excited to see. So fascinating game. It really is one that I think the more you watch it, the more interesting it gets as to what all happened. But gentlemen, we are damn near 45 minutes in. We need to talk about some of these other games real fast, right? And we need to talk about Oklahoma, because for the second week in a row, while Oklahoma blew Temple out, right now, if I'm not mistaken, I think Jackson Arnold has the lowest yards per completion in the SEC. That Oklahoma offense against Houston came out, and in the first portion of that game, they were having success. But in the latter portion, it just kind of went flat. Now, Brinsky, I do want, before we transition, I want to give you a chance to talk about Alabama, but after you give your take, Jason, talk to us about the Oklahoma.
I think everything been said about Alabama. Jalen Milroe needs to improve. Secondary still suspect. D-line is probably one of our strongest points on the team. We need to stop going to Ryan so much. Love for other receivers. Guys got to separate. Man, it ain't too much to say. We'll improve over time.
Jason, talk to us about Oklahoma. I'm going to go grab some water, and I will be right back.
No worries. Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that are going on with the OU offense right now. I think that one of the main things is that you haven't had 4 of the top 5 receivers that are in this on the roster. So, and the one that you do have is a new player as well. So you've got a new quarterback, you've got new receivers, and on top of that, to me, I think more than anything, I'm struggling with not really the play calling and definitely some of the things that you're seeing from Jackson Arnold. But I do think that a lot of it has to do with just substitution patterns. And I'm not really understanding how you've got the smallest guys in your receiving core on the outside. And along with, you and Deion Burks, but you're not really using Deion Burks to hit them deep. You're not really running them deep. It feels like Jackson is kind of cluttered up with what he's got going on. Maybe got too many reads for him to make. At this point, you might want to try to make it a little bit easier on him, just to, 1 or 2 reads, let him get the ball out, get, some easy passes in. But as Ty was talking about having, that lowest per completion rate, yardage ranking, it's not good. And a lot of it, I believe, has to do with last weekend, and me and Coach I talked about it on the snap count the other night. You got happy feet. People want to talk about the offensive line. The offensive line traditionally, particularly since they started with the whole transfer portal thing, you've had a lot of movement. They really have taken 3 or 4 games most every year. And I think, Ty, you'd probably back me up on this as well, to kind of get their rotation going. It looked a lot better for the O-line this past weekend, but he wasn't sticking into a clean pocket. I think that it's a little early to be calling for his job, however, because if you've got the next guy coming in is a true freshman who definitely, hey, man, he may be that guy and ready to rock and roll. And I'm not saying that he isn't. I think Michael Hawkins is an absolutely unbelievable talent. I also think it's a little bit early to throw the baby out with the bathwater here when it comes to Jackson Arnold, because we know what kind of arm talent he has. I think that there's a lot of things that are kind of working together to kind of work against him. And he just has to, he's definitely got to play better. I don't think that there's any 2 ways around it. You need him to play better football, just like you guys were saying about Jalen Milroe. What I would caution is that this is game 3 as a starter for him, not game, 15, 20, whatever. He's still getting going. Compared him to Baker Mayfield as a senior, and that had just won the Heisman Trophy and ended up going number 1 in his 3rd game as the starter at Oklahoma, is not how you continue getting 5-star players to come to Oklahoma. That's just the way I feel about it. Again, I think that the offense is going to work itself out. My thing is the substitution pattern. I'm not understanding the running back room. I'm not understanding their substitutions. The receiver room, I'm not getting a whole lot of it. If you're going to have one of the Zions in, I feel like it should be Zion Kearney. He's got a big body guy. He's also very talented. We're running out a lot of 5'8", 5'9" guys to play out on the edges. You can't miss a throw by doing that. You can, when Nick Anderson gets back, great. You can have him go up and get those 50-50 balls. And that would be the other thing I'm wondering is, are they by – I don't even know where I heard this. We've been talking and listening so much the last couple of days since all this craziness started, but I'm wondering if they're not leaving some guys out for precautionary reasons, whether it be offensive linemen or Nick Anderson, and maybe you didn't just get a feeling in the locker room that Houston wasn't going to be anything for them. They won 51-3 the week before. You even heard guys like Jay saying on, various shows that it was going to be the same kind of thing this past weekend. And then when you get, obviously if they're able to play and they're not playing because you're just for precautionary reasons, it almost gives that feeling of, well, we don't think too much of these guys. Second team, third team, maybe thinking the same thing, little complacency. It seemed like Brent Venables was a little irritated last Wednesday when he did his press availability. Wasn't real happy about the way that they were practicing, it didn't seem like. those things you can always seem to tell when coaches don't like the way that their teams are practicing. And I think that was pretty clear last week. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. It really is. But I think there's enough things that are conspiring against Jackson that you don't just throw him out yet. You don't do it, because if you do, you don't have him for the rest of the season if you need him. That's a problem.
Yeah, I'll quickly jump in on this. One of the things that surprised me, Jason, that I think, especially going into Tulane, is that OU's linebacking room right now is genuinely one of the most enjoyable things in college football to watch. Danny Stutzman is playing possessed. I mean, he really is. Stutzman is, guys, I don't know if y'all have gotten the chance to see it. That guy is playing an unbelievable brand of football right now. An unbelievable brand of football right now. But for the third or fourth year in a row, and maybe this is just a Brent Venables thing, and I don't get it, he is so fine with giving these wide receivers 8 yards of cushion. And they are just all too happy to say, I'll take the free 5 yards. Oh, once again, I'll take the free 5 yards. I'll take the free 5 yards. Then you look and Houston's driving down the field because OUDBs are 8 yards off. The time that this really fired me up is when y'all played West Virginia the first year. And it's 4th and 1, and your DBs are 8 yards off. And I'm sitting there screaming, being like, this is...
You and every Oklahoma fan.
What are we doing?
Right.
That's the part that is most perplexing to me about the defense. But the issue with OU right now isn't the defense. Let's get that very clear.
No
That's me.
Facts.
They
One of the
turnovers in the first game. They got turnovers in the last game. They had one missed assignment, but it was really because there was a questionable pass interference call to play before. The fans were booing, and Billy Bowman couldn't get the play call over to Robert Spears Jennings. It was just a blown assignment that he didn't know what the assignment was.
Yeah.
Y'all had ran the ball more, man. It seemed like y'all kept throwing the ball. I would have loved to see y'all run the ball some more. Give Barnes some more carries, man. You know what I mean? I'd love to see that kid.
Taylor Tatum would be okay too. I'd love to see some more Taylor Tatum. I don't care if you put him. You want to run a bunch of guys out into the receiver positions, run Taylor out there. He's a different.
Like every time I rewatched it, I seen Jackson Arnold run the damn ball. You know what I mean?
You got to be able to run the ball.
Yeah, they having issues. Yeah. But you know what though?
I don't think
I don't know how many
they're creeping up because they're not hitting
Sawchuck is a good running back. Tatum showing the explosiveness.
Yeah.
The problem was
I don't know how many
hasn't shown any kind of. He looks slow right now. But here's the real. I don't know that you really blame any of these running backs, Coach. I think right now.
No, I'm not. I said they're not the problem. I said
right.
The problem. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. No, and I think that you could probably open a lot of that up if you were dialing up some of these deep plays. They intentionally didn't go deep in the first game. Now all of a sudden we're not running anything deep, really, to speak of. In the ones that we are, he's missing them.
Well,
he got happy feet and moved out.
How many times did Jackson throw the ball?
Like to me,
21.
No, I think it was like 30 something.
Was it that high? Okay.
Yeah, he was like 19 of 31, I believe it was what it was, something like that.
What I want to say about the deep shot, and this is something that surprised me. He was 19 to 32. I was wrong. You were right. The first interception, or the interception, I have been a little bit surprised with the route running for OU's wide receivers. I thought in game one, I made a note that J.J. Hester, some of the routes he was running just left a lot to be desired. And then the interception, whenever I first saw it, I was like, Jackson, you got to put more juice on that ball to get it out there. But if you're Deion Burks and you have the cornerback over top of you and you start flattening out your route to go to the middle of the field and Jackson Arnold throws the ball, you then cannot try and get over top the defender.
Skinny.
Because the defender was already breaking. And so when I rewatched that, I was like, that interception is more on Burks.
It was.
So it just kind of seems like there's some discombobulation right now in the whole offense in terms of the deep attacks. And I will give you all the benefit of the doubt here. You have multiple guys out on the offensive line, right? Where Bama, we're kind of in the same position, but Bama has one guy that was really out experimenting with another. But I'm really interested to see what y'all look like against Tulane, because Tulane is a darn good team. Coach Sean, thoughts on the OU game?
Like I said, for me, man, to me, they got to be able to run the ball. You know, I kind of skimmed through it, and the few times I watched it, I watched most of it. It seemed like they just kept throwing the ball, and the offense really wasn't in sync. It's kind of like what I said with Alabama. If you keep throwing over and over and over and over and over and over and turn pass, you sometimes that gets you off. Offensive linemen don't like the pass block, bro. They love the run block. And they weren't balanced at all to me. You know what I mean? With the few runs I seen Barnes do, he was toting that thing. He was toting that thing, man.
And he's running hard, man. He's running hard. Yeah.
And Coach I made a great point, about run blocking, you know what I mean? And that's 100% true, but it's like, good Lord, man. I don't know how many times Jackson Arnold run the ball, but I seen him tote that thing a lot. Just as much as the running back almost,
He had the most carries, Coach. He definitely had the most carries.
So it seemed to me you got to get back to just being Oklahoma, run the ball, pass that thing, just balance, man. You said a quarterback threw how many times? Over 30?
32.
30 times? For what? How many yards passing did he have?
171.
170. Yeah. So you gotta get back to being balanced, man. Because if you don't be balanced, obviously, as we all know, that dictates how teams will play you.
Chance.
There he goes. My mic muted. No, it's just I caught a little bit of the game, so I'm not gonna act like I watched the full game in detail, but I did catch a little bit of it. No, I'm just, I mean, like I said, one of the things that I think that made Oklahoma special last year was the offensive line and their physicality. Like, they were a very, very physical unit, and it was just one of those situations where I think offensively you were able to kind of control the clock, able to control the line of scrimmage. I think that's how you're able to beat Texas. I think that's one thing that we weren't able to do against Texas last year, was control the line of scrimmage and dominate on the offensive line. And I think Oklahoma still has that personnel. I think they still have the talent. Are they as good as they were last year? I think that's still to be determined. And I think that when you continuously to work on a new rotation almost every single season with Benabal there, it's like, damn, man, I really wish some of these dogs I wish I can keep. But I mean, I think the running backs are fine, right? Barnes, C-Strong, like those guys are really, really good. Jackson Arnold still is a brand new quarterback. That is, he's a 5-star guy. He still has a lot of talent. But I think right now between the play calling and I think honestly with the continuity between all those players, this is an offense that's still trying to find its identity. And I think that based off what we saw last year, I think that is the approach of what a Brent Venables football team wants to be, right? The ability, again, they can still sling it, but the main focus is to dominate on the offense, is to dominate on the line of scrimmage, promote physicality, and control the time and control the time of possession. Matter of fact, in my opinion, I think that's kind of one of the biggest reasons why Dillon Gabriel even transferred in the first place. I think that the identity of the offense was going to go in a different direction that I think Gabriel just simply did not like. I think that's why I think he transferred him into Oregon in the first place. And so we'll see what kind of happens. But, I think that this is a team that's still trying to find itself. Of course, again, Houston, that not the greatest display in the world, especially because like UNLV destroyed, I believe that was UNLV that destroyed Houston. But overall wise, I mean, I think Oklahoma, they still have a lot of time to kind of figure this thing out, just like how Alabama still has some time to kind of figure this thing out. But Oklahoma does have probably the toughest schedule in the SEC. And so that's something that they have to, try to find out the kinks, figure out what they want to do, figure out what their identity is. And I think if they can do that, I think Oklahoma will be fine.
Love it. Coach I, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I agree with a lot of that. I don't know about the hardest schedule. I think Georgia might have that title.
Florida.
Or Florida.
Florida behind Florida. But yeah, but OU definitely has a hard schedule. And I don't know if they have a lot of time, Jans. They got Tennessee in 2 weeks. So
they play Tennessee that early?
Right. It's the fourth game.
Yeah, they play Tennessee right after Tulane. So that's
And it's in Norman. Is it in
Tulane's tough,
It's
man.
Norman.
In
It's
Norman.
Norman.
They
And
do get them at home. Tennessee's D line again. They've only gone against NC State. Really, Chattanooga not really counting that, but their D line definitely looks hungry. So
good.
that'll be interesting to see the O line versus the D line, and if they can keep pace. But as far as Houston is concerned, Houston, with them playing, they really didn't seem to fear the pass game. So it's like, and it's almost like it's like, okay, well, we'll just play base D on you guys and see what you can do. I mean, Jackson hasn't shown that he can pick people apart, and like Jason said, yeah, I mean, if he doesn't get that first read, and I go back to even like the Arizona game, the bowl game, watch him a little bit in the spring practice. Like, if he doesn't get that first read, he tends to get unsettled in the pocket and leaving the pocket when like Saturday, there was times that I saw, I didn't see the whole game, but the times that I saw, these clean pockets, and he's leaving. It's like, where you going, bro? Like, we got this rainbow pocket for you. Nobody's near you. Where you going? Like, find a receiver, check it down. You know what I'm saying? And let's see. I mean, they do have a lot of injuries at wide receiver currently. This is why we always talk about competitive depth. Everybody got roster spots, but not everybody's ready to step in. And I'm just watching Oklahoma. I'm not scared of any of the wide receivers. I like, my favorite wide receiver ain't playing right now, and that's Nick Anderson. Him and Gibson. Gibson's out for the year, if I'm not mistaken. I really like Gibson. So they got to figure out. Fletcher's got to. I mean, he's got a big body. He's got to, like. I'm not gonna put it all on JA, but like, these wide receivers got to help him out too. So they got to figure that out, man. So those are just my thoughts, man. But they definitely don't have a lot of time to figure it out. They got to get it together, because I'm not saying Tennessee's world beaters, but it's definitely gonna be a change of pace from Tulane, Houston, and Temple.
No doubt.
Yeah,
No doubt.
100%. Brinsky, thoughts?
Man, I'm kind of surprised that Jackson Arnold starting off a little slow this year. It's really surprising the way he played in the bowl game. I think, if my memory serves me correctly, he had a few turnovers in that game, but I thought with the whole all season, him getting more comfortable in the offense. Well, Levy lost. Yeah, I lost him. So, but I still thought he would be more explosive. But I think you just got to give him time. I know he's going to be good. I know when we see him, he's going to be good. So we're going to have to be prepared for him. But the defense is everything advertised, especially Billy Bowman. I love that guy, man. I love that guy. He's a dog. Stutz is a dog. And I just know y'all got a tough schedule, man. Y'all really got a tough schedule. The way y'all playing right now, but I know y'all get it together. But I know when y'all see Texas and like Tennessee, these high-power offenses, y'all defense can help y'all out a lot.
Keeping them in the game. But you're going to have to score points at some point.
Yeah, you definitely going to have to score points.
You're going to have to score some points.
They can only do so much, and you can't be doing no 3 and outs, keeping them on the field, getting them tired. So only time will tell. I can't wait to see, especially with Nico. I can promise you, college game day going to be at that game.
Well, and especially because if you look at how Houston scored, it was one of the times where they kind of went quick. They didn't allow OU to get everything situated. That's Tennessee's whole MO. They're going to go underneath because OU allows that cushion. And then when OU's kind of discombobulated, they're going to test you deep. Mm-hmm. So, but I will say, guys, genuinely, Danny Stutzman is playing really good football right now. I mean, every time Houston ran the ball,
that'll be a future Buffalo Bill right there. I just want to
28 was there. Coach I, you having to head out?
Yeah, I appreciate it, fellas.
Before you go, let the people know where they can find all your great content.
All right, y'all make sure y'all get over to Fanatic Sports on YouTube, and then you can get at me on Twitter and IG and Facebook as well, man. Appreciate y'all for having me on today.
Of course, Coach I. Of course. Glad you were able to make it. As his Georgia Bulldogs continue to just be Georgia. Let's be honest. I think that's the best way to say it. They're still Georgia. John, talk to me about this OU game. Then we're going to talk about Texas and just kind of round out the weekend and thoughts.
So I didn't get a chance to watch the whole game, but I can tell you this much. From watching the Temple game and a little bit I did watch against Houston, the wide receivers are not helping Jackson Arnold out, right? So I don't know a lot about the wide receiver room. I know about Nick Anderson. I know about the defense. Obviously, the defense is good as advertised. I'm a huge Vickers fan, and I can't wait to see what this guy's going to bring long-term to this team, as I followed him since high school. But the facts are this. Jackson Arnold is an amazing athlete. He has an outstanding arm. He's a young QB who was brought in by Jeff Lebby, who is no longer there. I get it. The system's similar, right? But he's not there at the same time, the guy that brought you in my opinion. There's going to be some growing pains even outside of that because Jackson Arnold is young. He wasn't there 3 years and your offense coordinator leaving, right? So there's going to be a little bit of a transition there. And another thing that people tend to forget about is Jackson Arnold had no offensive line at high school, and this kid got killed in high school. So in a sense, I think Oklahoma is having to break him out of that habit of if the first read isn't there, you don't have to run for your life every time. Because if you go back and watch his high school film, a lot of that, his offense was built on bootleg play, which is why he looked so good, outstanding, throwing outside the hashes, because his offensive line could not hold up, and they knew that. So in a sense, he's not just having to learn a whole new offense. He's having to learn that, hey, you don't have to run for your life every single time you're on this field at the same time. So, I mean, there's growing pains. He's a young QB, right? Like so many of them are. Nico just hasn't ran into the challenges that, Jackson Arnold has. And you're going to see it across the board. And at the same time, I'm excited for this season because it does seem to pan out to where everything's looking like it was Georgia and Texas kind of veering at the top. And then the rest of us below them kind of trying to figure our own situations out between Jackson Arnold, Jalen Monroe, and our offensive line, stuff like that as well. But yeah, I think Oklahoma is going to get better week to week, like Brent Venables has done since he's been there, right? So the defense, though, it's exciting. It's exciting when certain teams are really good, and it's exciting to see Brent Venables leave Clemson, go become a head coach right at Oklahoma where he was at before, and now take them to that height where so many people and fans that I saw Oklahoma-wise complain about Lincoln and even at the end of, we'll say the previous era with Stoops, just didn't have a defense that showed up like Brent Reynolds could bring. So, and now you bring that into the SEC where it's most vital, right? So, yeah, it's just exciting. And I think Jackson Arnold's going to improve week to week, just like the rest of these guys. I really do.
And I think a lot of it you got to go back to they're going to be getting a lot of these guys back. When you get a guy like Nick Anderson back and Andrew Anthony back, and I wonder whether or not we keep hearing that they're not serious injuries when it comes to Nick, that it's just, nothing serious. Okay, I would almost rather that you were keeping him out of practices than games at this point, because to me, it's, let him get a little more treatment or whatever. But I think at some point you want to try to, obviously your quarterback's struggling. They had gelled really well together leading up to his little injury is, hamstring, whatever it is, it just something nicked up. To me, when these guys get back, because it hasn't been the same lineup, you're getting, they pretty much with JJ Hester drop that pass in the first game that I think he got like 4 snaps last week. JJ Hester's another 6'4" guy that has some experience, although he hadn't had a ton at OU because of injuries himself. My thing is, I would expect that when these guys get back, when they start using these tight ends a little bit more, that's been a breath of fresh air for him, I would say. But and maybe you're going to have the offensive line. It was already better from week 1 to week 2. This is what they do under Bill Bedenbaugh. They get better every week. I suspect they're going to be fine by the time Tennessee rolls around. I'm not saying that that's an easy game. It's not an easy game. It's a game that you're going to have your hands full with Nico Iamaleava, not to mention that defensive line. What I would tell you is Nico's going to have his hands full with this defense. They will not have seen a single setup that they're going to throw at him. They will not have. They've been completely vanilla on defense and still dominating. So I feel good about this being a defensive-led team. All you got to really do is just get a little bit better each week. I feel like they're going to be okay. But they definitely got to get something going. No doubt.
There we go. There we go. Let's talk about this Texas-Michigan game, because this was interesting. Listen, I didn't think there was a world that Michigan won this game. We talked about this the week before. We talked about this the Friday before. And I was even arguing with people in chat when they were like, well, Texas lost a lot of talent too. And I said, point to me where Michigan replaced their talent at the level Texas replaced theirs. Didn't happen. Texas retained their coaching staff. The thing that did surprise me with guys is that Michigan is still a solid defense. No doubt about it. Michigan is still a real solid defense. But Texas came out and they look good, right? Shout out Colin Simmons. He looked very good. I said in the offseason, guys, whenever we did our biggest transfer portal additions, Andrew Makuba was going to be huge for this Texas secondary, the experience he brings to the table. And so far, he's been playing like a man possessed. Texas looks like the real deal. Sark is dialing it up. I mean, Quinn looks, it's early, but whenever those who said I was hard on Quinn, this is what I was meaning. Whenever he sets his feet and is more consistent in his technique, that guy can absolutely just sling it. Absolutely sling it. But we didn't see that consistently the past season. We're seeing it this year. They look good. Coach Sean, what are your thoughts about Texas-Michigan? Because it is an interesting game. It is an interesting game with how much Michigan lost, talent-wise, coaching-wise. The offense is not good. Let's keep it a buck. Michigan's offense is horrendous. Defense, though, I mean, they got some talented pieces. What were you thinking?
I mean, we talked about this. I even said, my exact words, if you go back and look, Texas is going to dump truck Michigan. That's what I said. You can't lose 18 people. Most of them were starters on both sides of the ball and think you're going to have the same team right there, right? That go for Alabama, Michigan, anybody else. They lost their quarterback, J.J. McCarthy. They lost Blake Corum. Yeah, I know they still got Donovan Edwards. Blake Corum was the heartbeat of that team, man. A.J. Barner, all those, so many people that they lost off that team. That is not the same Michigan team that we played, in the national championship game. And when I say not the same, teams change every year, but that Michigan team is nowhere near. Look at them, bro. Like I'm not taking nothing from Texas, but I said before the game, this game would not even be close, right? Texas, that's just not the same Michigan squad, brother. I'm sorry. I don't think that's the same. I don't think Michigan. I think they're going to have another loss here very soon in that conference. Texas won't get. I don't know when they play Georgia, but Texas compared to Oklahoma has an easy schedule compared to Oklahoma. Let's just call it what it is, right? The truth is in the details, man. You don't believe me? Go look, right? And I mean it drew up just like how I thought it was going to work. You know what I mean? It didn't shock me at all. The linebacker play for Michigan was terrible. The secondary play was terrible. The play calling on offense when you clearly wasn't going to be able to do what you want to do was terrible. Like they couldn't adjust, they couldn't spread Texas out. And we said this, they couldn't take advantage of what Texas do bad because your quarterback wasn't it. He wasn't it, man. So that game went about just like how I thought it was going to go.
Yeah, and Chris, I'm typing this out. You think that Texas will go 9-4 this year? They're overrated. I'd ask you, what 4 losses?
Man, these dudes.
9-4.
No, ask him to put the 4 losses in the chat.
That's what I did, Chris. What 4 losses do you have them taking? Because if you want to say
Please.
Georgia, fair. That's going to be a beautiful schematic matchup. Every football fan is genuinely getting a Christmas present treat in that game from a schematic matchup.
Their schedule compared to Oklahoma's is easy peasy.
It's favorable.
What 4 losses, man?
Very
they got
favorable.
Oklahoma, they got Georgia.
If they lose to Oklahoma and OU, they still got to go on the road at the last game of the year for A&M. Now, you can think what you want about A&M. A&M wants that game a hell of a lot more than they do.
Of course.
Yeah, but A&M's got to have an offense, and they're not playing the right quarterback right now for Colin Klein's offensive system.
I agree with that.
So, I mean, I think a Texas worst-case scenario this year, you're looking at 2 losses. Right? Like, because let's be honest, guys, even the Texas fans in here, I don't care how OU looks, just like I always tell Jason and the OU guys, I don't care how Texas looks. When that Red River game starts, everything before goes out the window. You want to know how I know? Look at Bama Auburn. Whenever Bama plays in Jordan-Hare, I don't care if they've lost to New Mexico State the week before. That game is just different. It's one of those rivalry games. It's just wild. Jance, talk to me about Texas.
Yeah, Texas did everything I thought they were going to do. Won a lot of money off that game, so I'm happy Texas was able to get that win. Tried to tell Michigan fans that they were fraudulent this year, that they had zero offense, no quarterback at all. Alex Orji can't throw the football. Davis Warren is a walk-on quarterback that just does not have the talent, just that he doesn't have the arm talent, not the most accurate quarterback in the world, and he's a less athletic version of J.J. McCarthy. When you lose 4 starters on your offensive line, you have no playmakers on the outside. You have Donovan Edwards as your main running back, who I think is the most overrated college football player in the country, because quite frankly, besides running against, again, he's been great in the playoffs, but what has he done besides Ohio State in those playoff games? What has he done besides 4 games? What other 100-yard games can you think of that he's accomplished, or 75+ yard games that he's accomplished throughout his career? Nothing. And so I think he has a lot of talent, but then you bring in Chaz Malusi, who again is kind of more of a career rotational back, 400, 500-yard back at best. That's all you bring. So defensively is really the only key strength, and we all know defensively they lost a lot of talent as well. They don't have as deep as rotation on the front 7 like they used to have. I think their secondary is good, but besides, again, with Mike Sirenstel, you lose Keon Sapp. You lose kind of, you lost the other safety and the other kind of outside guy. But besides Will Johnson, what other notable names can you think of on this defense? Josiah Stewart is having a solid season. I give Josiah Stewart a lot of credit. He's having a solid season. I can't name other huge impactful guys on this Michigan defense that I can really think of. So for the most part, you're just running a lot of rotational guys, a lot of guys that are coming up. And I think that this team will be good next year, even better than what they are this year defensively, even though you're probably going to lose Mason Graham. Kenneth Grant's coming back. He's coming back because he's having an atrocious season so far. Atrocious. I think that he's kind of overhyped. Mason Graham's gone. I think that he is gone. But this Michigan offense, this Michigan football team, quite frankly, Texas did exactly what they were supposed to do, which was dominate them up front because Texas was going to win the offensive line matchup. They were going to give Quinn Ewers the protection. And sooner or later, with Steve Sarkisian calling plays, a lot of these receivers were going to get free up. And the crazy part is Texas could have easily put up 50 points against Michigan. They let up in the second half. They let up. They weren't a little bit more conservative like in the second half compared to what we've seen before. So, I give Texas a lot of credit. They did exactly what they were supposed to do. And but I'm not going to sit up here and just listen. Texas they're a great football team, right? I wouldn't be surprised at all if Texas goes ahead and makes it to the SEC championship game, but I am not going to crown them like everyone else is crowning them, sitting there saying that this is a 2-man race for the entirety of the season of Texas, Georgia being the best 2 teams in college football for the entirety of the season. I am not going to sit up here and be that person. I will give them the flowers and say that they are a great football team. But we are overrating Michigan way too much. This is a Michigan football team. Guys, this team may not win more than this team may go 8-4.
Thank you.
They may go 8-4 this season. This is not a good football team. They have no quarterback. They have no passing game. They have no playmakers on the outside. Their offensive line is suspect.
There's not one person on that Michigan offense who would start for Texas.
Not one. Not one. Donovan Edwards, is he starting really? I don't know if he's really going to start. I'm going to be honest. So it is what it is, guys. Again, we got to give Texas the credit, but let's not act like they were just world beaters. Because I don't.
Great in week 2 last year too, folks.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. If they lined up against Ole Miss today, do I think that Texas will blow out Ole Miss? I'm not too sure. I think that there is like 3 teams in this conference right now that I'm just like, I got to see it. I got to see it for myself. But listen, Texas is a great football team. They're going to make the play. I think that this is a caliber football team, a playoff football team. But yeah, we're overrating Michigan way too much. Well, at least we're not doing this. This panel's not doing this, but the media's doing it way too much. They're acting like this crap's a big deal. Anyone who has followed college football knows that this was going to happen. And if you didn't bet on this football game,
Yes.
if you did not bet anything on this football game, and if you are someone that, and again, if you're a non-gambler, it is what it is. But if you're someone that likes to bet on college football parlays, and if you didn't bet anything and win any money on this, then I don't know what you're doing with your life. Because this was the easiest lock of the week by far.
I don't know what you're doing with your life.
Yeah.
Call it now. So you can call me Sean Stradamus when the season starts. Arkansas going to beat Texas. Watch.
See, that's what I'm
I agree with that.
That's another one of those games that, hey, they beat them. They've beat them the last, 3 times they've played them?
Arkansas going to beat them.
You want to know why I don't know that? I think Arkansas is a really interesting team, but Coach, Arkansas and Sam Pittman, he couldn't coach his way out of kindergarten right now.
Facts. I agree.
I'll give you that.
So,
I picked Oklahoma State to beat them.
You may not be around by then, Ty.
I picked Arkansas to beat
That's
Oklahoma
true, Jason.
State because they were beating the hell out of them.
Beating the hell out of them.
But they tried to
They doubled them
give
up on
that game
offense.
away. Listen, I think Jance hit the nail on the head. I think it's too early to crown Texas, but I also think we do need to be real and say, hey, it's a damn good football team, man. A damn good football team. The play calling looks really good. And it is what it is. Now, Trojan, you asked something, and unfortunately, Sean Stradamus is awesome, isn't it, Nicole? You left last night, but both Jance and I agreed that USC, you asked about Tennessee. Jance and I agreed USC should be rated above some of these teams that are rated in the top 10 because y'all have a better win than they have. And if we're going to rank teams this early, let's at least respect the integrity of the rankings. And y'all beat LSU, and the people still have LSU rated as a top 20 team. If we're not going to respect the rankings, then what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. But I do love that. Listen, I love the Arkansas call, Coach, but I just have no faith in Sam Pittman.
That is a trap game, though. That's a trap.
Thank you, Jack. Texas is going.
That is in November. That is late in the season.
Yes, sir.
That's when Texas
is going to have a few injuries.
Schedule. Yep.
Sam won't even be there.
Watch.
Sam won't even be there by then. It'll be full.
No, it doesn't matter. You got Bobby Petrino. You don't think Bobby Petrino will be elevated?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, if
Arkansas
the guy
anyways,
anyways, he won't be there anymore.
Arkansas won't have anything to lose. You mark Texas is going to have Texas is going to get beat up throughout this season, even in these games they play. That game at Arkansas is Arkansas Super Bowl. It's not Texas' Super Bowl. Not to the younger fans. The older fans, maybe. Not to the younger fans. You watch. Arkansas going to be on cloud.
If Arkansas just ran the ball against Oklahoma State, they win that football game. They got too cute. They just run the ball, run the clock out, and you win that game. They did not do that. It was too many turnovers. It was penalties. Remember, who was that? Who was that doing? Xavier Sawyer with the late hit that could have won them the football. They blew way too many chances against Oklahoma State. Arkansas has really good personnel, man. Yes, coaching-wise and coaching management-wise and game management, they have issues. Personnel-wise, on the offensive line, on both sides of the line of scrimmage, they got some dogs or some hogs in this case. They got some very good personnel. Listen, I'm not writing out Arkansas. I'm not doing it.
Throw up that Zofix comment there.
Well, no. No, Vandy's playing some good football. Diego Pavia is a dog.
Diego Pavia is a dog, man.
He's a dog. He really is.
Ask Auburn.
Michigan. Yeah, Coach Al, I think it's one of those things where it's like, I think that listen, I always say this, and then we'll move down to the bottom three guys and move on to some general reactions, right? I always say this. Shout out Coach Al. Two things can be true at the same time. That Texas is a really good team this year, right? Jaden Blue is a monster running back. I love the way he runs. I really love the way he runs. Your wide receiver room looks really good. Ryan Wingo is really good young talent. Guys, this year's crop of true freshmen, I don't know that I've ever seen so many true freshmen pop the way I've seen it this year. You have Stewart at South Carolina, who's is a demon. My God, that guy's unbelievable. Ryan Wingo, Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith, Ryan Williams, Jalen Mbakwe, Zabian Brown. I mean, the freshmen this year are going insane. It's just an insane year for true freshmen, right? It really, really is. And Anthony, I do want to answer your question before I pass it to these guys. But the other thing I'm going to say, two things can be true. One, Michigan was incredibly overrated. There's a reason why everybody on this panel Friday before the game said, and we argued with people in here, Texas is going to handle Michigan. I mean, they're just going to handle the Wolverines. I didn't see a universe in which Michigan won that game. And they did. So I think two things can be true. Two things can absolutely be true. To answer your question about USF, Anthony, I don't think y'all have to worry because Alabama was patching their offensive line, right? You guys have a really solid offensive line out there in Miami. Y'all are going to be able to pick up that pressure a lot easier than Alabama's patched offensive line is going to be. So I think USF, once again, two things can be true. USF is a damn good football team. I think y'all are going to be just fine in that game. Brinsky, talk to me about Texas.
They just look good, man. Quinn Ewers, he was playing real good, but I know he stayed away from Will Johnson. I do notice that. He knows
which
better.
Is smart. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't
know.
test that
He knew better. He knew better. I just wanted to see was he going to try him, like how he tried out cornerbacks, and I was like, okay, clearly he's not going to try him, but he didn't need to because everything else he was just carving them up. Michigan, I don't know what they got going. Oh man, I already expected it. That was I don't even know why they was even in the top 10. They lost too many major guys, and you talking about repeating as champions. If it was anything, they wasn't going to repeat, and you can bet your last dollar on that. Let alone go undefeated in the Big Ten. Let alone win. I don't even think they win 10 games, especially with the quarterback play. Like Jan said, man, that was literally like a free space for gambling. If whatever the over and under was, you should have took the over by a mile in a heartbeat. The running game, for Texas, they can't afford to lose no running backs right now because they already thin in that position. I think they're gonna be all right, but I can't wait to see Quinn actually play somebody we know is going to be competition. Even though they did go into a hostile environment, but it's not Michigan of last year. Now, if it was Michigan of last year and they did that, that would have been very, very impressive. But only time will tell. I love the receivers. Got to see Isaiah do a couple of plays for the most part, but they look good right now.
Yeah, 100%.
But I don't think they're the second best team in the conference right now. That's a little overblown.
Yeah. Listen, I don't know where a lot of teams stack up because we're so early. I just know when I look at Texas, when I watch them, I'm like, hey, this is a good team, right? Like this is a darn good team. You need to get up for them. You need to be ready because defense looks solid. Makuba was a great addition. Offense, their offensive line is going to be on a short list of Joe Moore Award potential offensive lines. They are great. And Al Sanders says Niblack was a no-show. Strange. I'm not going to say, right? I think Joe Cox said a lot whenever Niblack left. If you don't know, just look it up. You have to understand what's happening in that Texas offense, and they've got two tight ends in front of him that they know exactly what Sark wants. And those two tight ends are really good. Solid pieces. Jason, talk to me about this UT game and this UT
Jason, when you speak on it, speak on the fact that they got a physical Mississippi State team, then they got y'all a bye week, then y'all and Georgia back to back.
But then Coach Vandy after that, like that stretch right there, I don't know. I think they'll be good against Mississippi State, but OU Georgia, Vandy. I think that's a 3.
They gonna be good against Mississippi State, but Mississippi State beat you up. They any player would tell you Kentucky and Mississippi State they're not gonna beat Texas, but they're physical. You got to play a different kind of ball with them, and your body. I tell you what Jonathan Allen said. He said it's a lot of games that you play on Saturday night and you still go out to the club. After playing Mississippi State and Kentucky, you don't go to the club. You go home, you go to sleep. That's what I want to say. Go ahead, Jake.
I love it. No, that's good. Look, they look good this weekend. You can't say anything. You can't take anything away from what they did. I don't think that obviously Michigan was anything close to what they were a year ago, at least not at this point. Defensively, they look pretty good. They didn't really – they have no offense in Ann Arbor right now. So I don't know how much of a test that really was for that, because I think that the problem for Texas is on defense. I wouldn't be the least bit worried about the Texas offense at all. The problem for them is in the middle of that defense. That's their biggest issue. I still am not sold on that secondary either, but I'm going to tell you this. When you start talking about the games that they can lose, can they lose 4 games? You bet your ass they can lose 4 games, because they're going to lose to OU. They're going to lose to Georgia. That's going to happen. OU's won 17 out of the last 25. It's just how it is.
Can I interrupt you 1 second?
Go right ahead.
I'm not surprised by that answer, by the way.
You know this.
I didn't want to say that.
So,
what a shocker on that.
I don't change my story very much, bro. I don't change my story much. Look, the reason being is physicality wise, it's not going to be the same thing. I like what they are on the edges. I do like what they are on the edges. I don't love what they are in the middle of that defense. We've seen that. You can talk about this offense all you want to. That's not how you win in the SEC. Now, they're going to lose those 2. They could possibly lose. I don't see them really losing the Vandy game. I'm not really going to call that one. I'm not going to do it. But I could definitely see them losing the Arkansas game, particularly if Sam Pittman's not there to screw it all up, for his team. And then, look, the A&M game is going to be a real pain in the ass for them. It always is. Look, they usually win it. I'll give you that. But you're at College Station. Something tells me the whole Schlossnagel thing is going to come into that. Man, they really hate Texas right now. They just do. I don't know that they guaranteed win 4 or lose 4, but I think they lose 3 at minimum. At minimum. It is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. We'll see.
Type, where are they better on defense than they were a year ago? Because they're
easily on the edge.
Okay, but what about in the middle? Where are they going to get tested everywhere that they didn't get tested this weekend? Is in the middle.
Here's the thing: their interior isn't bad. It's not what it was last year, right? But their interior defensive line isn't bad. They're much better on the edge. They're allowing Anthony Hill to play at his more natural position, which helps them shore up the middle of that defense. Their secondary is better. Their safety play is exponentially better.
Makuba's better.
Yeah, well, I mean, their secondary is playing better than it was last year, right? Because when we even like last year,
better.
Well, sure, but I mean, you could say the same for OU, right? I think they were ranked 113th last year. OU was 115th last year.
Well, and definitely a lot better there.
Maybe you've played Temple and Houston, 2 teams without offense, and Houston was getting it off on that secondary. They were getting the underneath. I think OU is great up front and in the middle, but we'll see against Tulane and Tennessee, because Houston didn't exactly get shut down, and UNLV shut them down. And Temple's god-awful. So, listen, I hear you, but I think OU is going to be a much improved defense as well. I've said this all offseason. I don't doubt that. I also think Texas's defense, the only area where I don't think they're better than last year is interior defensive line. That's it. And I don't think that they're a bad interior defensive line. I think they're good.
Homegrown. If we get RJ back on here, you ask him which SEC schools are some of the most physical. I guarantee you, he gonna tell you Mississippi State. Physicality alone don't translate to wins. Ask Wisconsin, but that team is physical, bro. Up front on both sides, always have been. Mississippi State is very physical. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying they're gonna beat us. I'm saying if a Bama player tell you, matter of fact, I've heard multiple Bama players say that Mississippi State is one of those games where you're gonna have some bumps and bruises after that game, and everybody already know it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's tough for me. Like Kentucky's a very physical team. They're terrible offensively, but they're a very physical team. God awful offensively. Defensively, they're physical. It's just Mississippi State is so depleted right now in terms of their talent. I just don't look at Mississippi State and see the same Mississippi State that I saw when Jonathan Allen was in the SEC. When, no, Sooner, I'm going off of the specific metric of passing defense. And Oklahoma last year was outside the top 100 in passing defense. I'm not looking at total defense. I'm looking specifically at one metric, which was OU against the pass, and they were outside the top 100. I think they're going to be much improved. But if we're going to talk about Texas being outside the top 100, which was true, that's the only reason I bring that up. Not to be like, oh, that is to say, hey, if one thing can be true, then the other thing can also be true. That's just kind of where I look at this. John, what's your thoughts on Texas coming out of this?
I'm gonna make mine short and sweet. I'm a gambler. Vegas doesn't lie. You know what I mean? If you'd have paid any attention to this line when it got released up into the game time, it was telling you exactly what was going to happen. Look, the simple fact is Michigan is one-dimensional. They can't throw the ball. Davis Warren is just horrible at reading a defense. They're just completely one-dimensional. And if you're a decent to good SEC team that's going to compete, you best believe I expect you to beat a team like that. I don't care if it's Michigan or not, but when you look at Michigan losing that staff, you look at all the players they did lose, J.J. McCarthy, a lot of the leadership, the captains, right, the whole back end here. It was definitely expected, right? So I believe that their strength is still the defense. The secondary, in my opinion, still looks pretty good. They can still probably run the ball, right? But until they can get some sort of semblance of a passing game, they're going to struggle, and it's going to be a very long year for them in the Big Ten. And I think they're going to lose against USC. I do think they're going to end up probably torching them as well. It may not be to this extent, but I definitely think that's going to chalk it up as another loss. And I believe, does Michigan play USC next?
I'm not sure when they play USC, but I would actually agree. I do think USC beats Michigan.
So they have them
week 4.
Week 4. So they have Arkansas State, then they play USC at home, and I believe they'll lose the USC game 100%. And if I'm a Michigan fan, I'm calling Connor Stallions right now to try to get that dude back over, to get some of those signs in there. You know what I mean? So, because other than that, you're going to have a really long year. I think Texas looks good. I agree with Jance. I'm not going to crown them atop of the SEC, right? But I think everything has kind of panned out to what we really expected when we started the year. Quinn Ewers comes back, right? So outside of CJ Baxter and those guys getting hurt for Texas, you kind of knew what to expect. You knew they were going to beat Michigan. You knew they were going to win week 1. I don't think anything's like a huge surprise at this point. I think there's just certain teams that have things to fix, like Alabama, Oklahoma, right? And then certain teams that really haven't been pushed to the limit that maybe like Alabama did, right? Young secondary playing a team like South Florida and that goalish system. Same thing with Oklahoma, right? So they're breaking in a brand new quarterback. Tennessee doing the same thing with Nico, but not really playing anybody, in my opinion, to that competition where he's going to be pushed at all yet. So really, do we really know what we have out of him? Probably not right now. I think Texas looks good. I think Michigan looks terrible. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be between Ohio State and USC, in my opinion, at top of the Big Ten, to see who's going to win that, unless Oregon can somehow find some semblance of getting it together from the previous 2 weeks. But that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, and I see a lot of people saying, I'm not sitting here telling you that Oklahoma can't beat Texas. I would never say that about a rivalry game.
No, absolutely not.
No, it's going to be a great game as always. But Texas does look good. Truth, they almost forgot how to football on the offensive side. The defense is still good. but you got to score. And Texas Homer made a great point that Donovan Edwards is one of the worst backs when it comes to yards after contact.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The
100%.
offensive line, I don't know how they're going to do against USC's defensive front, because UFC's defensive front took it to LSU's offensive line. I don't see how Michigan is able to score to keep up with USC. They have like 6 starts.
Yeah, and as far as the USC defense being a fraud, guys, D'Anton Lynn's there. If you guys saw what he did at UCLA and the transition he made on that defense,
From
give that guy
98th to 15th.
Yeah, give that guy time.
Going to be depth. That's where their questions at. It's not in that staff.
Oh, okay, the depth, and then which is completely understandable.
That's
but
fair.
they still got Gentry. They got a lot of experience in that defense where they didn't have it last year.
No doubt,
So-
but I think their biggest problem is going to be later in the year in the trenches.
Later in the year. Yeah, no, I
because
got
their
you.
depth there is a little shake. But man,
It is.
D'Anton Lynn and Henderson, Matt Ince, they got a nice defensive.
Doug Belk in the secondary.
That's right.
No, Jason, I think that's an incredibly fair statement, right? Like, that's why I don't even prognosticate like how good.
It's
Ty,
hard
you
to
got
tell.
a strong name there, buddy. You're rooting for the wrong team, but you got a real strong name down there, and I like that. You're good in my book. Got a
They also
strong
have kind
name.
of a light Big Ten schedule, though, not having to play Ohio State or Oregon. When Oregon's been kind of having their number too. So although they hadn't looked great the first.
Oh yeah, Oregon's been terrible.
Yeah,
they've been terrible.
so
They've been very terrible.
I don't think that it's definitely out of the woods for them, but I don't know that they're going to be that. I don't know that they're going to be that terrible either. They really, most of the toughest games are in LA. Not that they really get a home field advantage when they're there.
Truth. If you say LSU has a Met offense, don't you dare then come try and tell me that Michigan's offense is misunderstood. Right? You sound like the person who's telling me my ex or my girl is just misunderstood. LSU's offense is exponentially better than that stuff we just watched with Michigan. Offense looked bad in week 1. They looked real bad in week 2. If they had looked good in week 1, fine. They looked bad in week 1. They looked bad in week 2. Two things can be true at the same time. That Texas is a darn good football team. We've talked about it. But Michigan's offense is just bad, man. It's just bad. Homer said it, and the film doesn't lie. They're just not very good. They will be. I can agree they will be better. And I know you didn't say misunderstood. I just saw an opportunity to get off a joke, and I have to do my part, right? But that's fair. That's fair. That's fair, guys. Let's round this out with some general college football talk. Who stood out to you? I'll tell you who stood out to me. Notre Dame, you are not making the college football playoffs. Holy hell.
That's a hot take.
Holy hell. That shit is done. Gone. Dunskies. Coach Sean, Keyway's got a question for you. Which games scare him on Bama's schedule?
You know what he's going to say. He played for me. All of them. Every game. Wisconsin scared me to death. Tennessee scared me to death. Missouri scared me to death. South Carolina scared. Whichever one is the next game, that's what scares me to death. I don't have the luxury of being like most fans, being like, we only one game scared. Nope. Oklahoma scared me. Every game on the schedule. Why? Because I know all it takes is these 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids to come out there not focused. We'll get our asses beat. That's all I know. It takes that much. That's why. So whatever game is next is the one that scares me the most.
Spoken like a true coach.
Mm-hmm.
Spoken like a true coach, right?
Certainly sounds like a coach to me. Certainly sounds like a coach to me.
Stink-ass cat with the $50 donation saying, I've been watching Texas for 40 years as an OU fan. We will see at the end of the year. And that's fair. That's fair. Listen, that's why I love what Jant said. We're not crowning anybody yet, but we can also acknowledge, we can talk about what we saw, right? Jant's, What stood out to you from this weekend?
Oregon sucks. That's what stood out to me, man. They're definitely fraudulent, overrated as hell. Their offensive line is definitely suspect. And Boise State, let's be honest, Boise State's defense is not good as well. But Oregon is overhyped. They're overhyped. The only thing that I think is really good is I think the receiving core is still very good. I thought Evan Stewart, this was his coming out game in terms of how effective he's going to be within this offense. Dillon Gabriel, even though statistically he's been fine, he's been efficient, he's been a solid starting quarterback for this team so far. I don't think Dillon Gabriel has been better than what he was at Oklahoma. I just don't. And maybe that's him still trying to learn this offense, trying to go from trying to transition to this offense. But man, you look at his average. Throw per depth. It is like really low, man. For the most part, he is letting his receivers just it's just been a lot of 3-4 yard passes, and then just letting these receivers work after catch. Now again, they got better during the Boise State game, but overall wise, this Oregon football team, defensively, offensively, especially how they got dominated on the line of scrimmage against Boise State's offensive line. Again, Genty's the best running back in the country, but the holes that were opening up in that game, man. I mean, you could just plow a truck through those holes, man, and you would do absolutely fine. So it's just, yeah, they're the most overrated team in the country. This is not even a discussion. They should not even be ranked in the top 10. But yeah, that's the one that stood up to me. I was very curious, man, because a lot of people were telling me, oh, well, it's the first game of the season. You can't judge off the first game. Idaho made it to the playoffs last season. I'm like, okay, well, let's see how they did against Boise State, because Boise State's defense is atrocious and they have no passing game. And Boise State they were that close. They were a last second away from potentially taking that game to overtime. And who knows what that thing could have happened. But if only a running game, and something that a lot of people thought that Oregon would be great at, which was trench warfare. If they came in, last week it was the offensive line, this week it was the defensive line. If you can't form a consistency with both fronts, you're gonna have a problem. You're gonna have a long problem. And one thing I'll give Michigan some credit is, even though they don't have a passing attack, I think they still have a running game, right? Despite my criticism of Edwards and Malusi, they still have an identity with that rushing attack. So we'll see what happens. But what's crazy? Oregon, despite the criticism I'm giving them, they can still easily go 9-3, 10-2, and compete for a conference championship game. The Big Ten is trash. I think USC and Ohio State are the top two teams by far in that conference. Rutgers, I'll place Rutgers as a close third. That conference is terrible. And for anyone that's going to sit up here and say that the SEC isn't the best conference in the country, you're just being dumb.
That's not in question. But I think
Danny Cannell is still up there talking about Florida State. So God help him.
Still saying he said the Big Ten is the best conference. And then I give him, well, what's the reason you give the Big Ten the conference? I've gotten a reply. Really? Yeah. You're gonna focus on the bottom half. The bottom half is the reason why Arkansas lost. Mississippi State, I don't know if they won against Arizona State, but they were down 10-30 and they literally, I think they tied it. So I don't know if they won that game, but still, Mississippi State really gonna take that seriously? Like, you're gonna, LSU losing to USC, a USC that is proven it so far to be a very, very good football team, really? Like, you're not gonna talk about Georgia though. You're not gonna talk about Texas. You're not gonna talk about
Ole Miss.
You're not gonna talk about Missouri. Why don't you talk about those teams and then speak about the top half of the Big Ten? You won't do that, though. You won't do that. So
the only thing I will tell you is that Iowa State's going to be right up there in the mix too, because they lost this game last week against Iowa State, but the only other team that they really play is Ohio State the rest of the year.
Yep. And we don't know how they win these football games.
They're going to go 10-2, and they're going to have a chance. They're going to be in the playoff too. This is because of the way that they're going to set it up. It's not going to be because they're that good, but
it's the only thing I'd advise you on. And I'm not giving you legal advice. I was never an attorney, so I can't give you legal advice, but I did work in law firms. Watch
stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Watch Danny Cannell suing you for disagreeing with his take, right? I'd watch out for that. So maybe
I'm ready. I'm ready to go, man.
I know you are. Danny Cannell wouldn't know it was coming. Let me tell you what. Yeah. No, listen, I agree. I agree. And I even have questions about Ohio State. You're talented as all hell. Your defense, I don't think, is an issue. All right. You got a lot of talent on it. Why does McCord look like an exponentially better player when he gets away from Ryan Day's grasp?
But it's not really Ryan Day's grasp anymore. Chip Kelly is going to spread that out and run the ball a lot. They're a problem. They're a problem.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
They're a problem.
I agree that Ohio State's going to be a good team. But anytime Ryan Day is involved,
you can't trust them.
I can't trust it.
No,
I just can't.
You can't trust them. Yeah.
I just can't.
I'll give you that.
I think they'll win the Big Ten, though. Like, don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah,
like,
I do too.
I don't see anybody contending with them. So it is what it is. Brinsky, what was your takeaway from the weekend? Feel free to cook anybody, because I still need to cook somebody.
Oh, I hate Danny Cannell. I absolutely hate that guy. So
could you imagine being his wife and having to listen to him whine all the time?
Just be made. And y'all know what the B stands for. That's what he is.
Yeah.
And I really mean that. I'll say that to his face. But Ashton Genty for Heisman. That man is running football right now. If he can go throughout the whole year like that, they said he was on pace to if he's the pace that he's running right now, he can break Barry Sanders records at the pace that he's going right now. I think it's impossible, but the conference that he's in, and he already got pretty much the best defense that they're gonna see off the top of my head, Oregon. I think he can do it if he keeps running like this. So I believe he has a big chance of winning the Heisman.
He's a tiddlewink away from 500 yards in 2 games. He is halfway to 1,000 yards, and we're not in week 3 yet. Mm-hmm. The hell is going on?
That's what I said, man. That man is running the ball, man. He literally took over that Oregon game at some point, and I thought they was going to come out there and win it. Penn State is trash. They should have lost their game. Notre Dame. I wish Marcus Freeman was a coach somewhere else. Yeah. Because I love Marcus Freeman, but I just hate Notre Dame. Like, I was happy that they lost, but at the same time, I'm sad for Marcus Freeman at the same time, so I didn't like that.
But let me get one. Sooner, he's saying by the raw stats. Like, that's not, Sooner said, dude, Barry Sanders, come on. No, we're
by the stats. Come on now.
We're just saying by the stats. We're saying if he continues this, and Brinsky even said he doesn't believe it because it's Barry, but by the stats, the dude is at 489 yards in 2 games.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
We see how long that his single season record has been. I think Barry Sanders came out in 88. I was born in 91. I'm 33 years old. That means a record been going that long with more games, and that man is putting up these type of stats. That's amazing. That's amazing. Incredible. If he can just break that record, break one of those records, is amazing. So
I mean, he's an incredible player. I before y'all came in here, a guy who is very much a mentor to myself, right? He does great work. I won't get into it, but he is pretty involved in some of these football programs, and Boise State is one of them where he's very involved. In fact, he sent me a picture of him at the 50-yard line at this game. And right there we go. Picture I get from my... He tried to tell me, he's like, man, Genty is going to have a great year. He was 100% right. 100% right. Jason, what stood out to you?
What stood out to me? Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of them. You kind of gone over a lot of them. I think the main one would probably be the Arkansas game that you're just scratching your head about. They doubled up the yardage on Oklahoma State and still found a way to gag it up. But the fact that you've had a lot of teams that are supposed to contend this year struggle the first couple of weeks. I mean, you had some that held on, and didn't lose. But I mean, there's some works in progress. I think I would tell you that, yeah, I mean, Texas went ahead and did what they needed to do up there. I was one of the people that thought that could be the type of game that they could hurt them as far as like physicality wise. I was wrong. I got to say it. I don't know what the hell's going on at Oregon. But probably the one that stands out the most is how do you go and have a lead like that in Stillwater, and still just crap down your leg, double up. And I mean, that Ollie Gordon didn't even get off. Ollie Gordon had 11 yards in the first half, and you don't blow them out. Something ain't right there. I'm telling you, Pittman got to go. Go ahead there, Brinsky.
I'm so sorry. We've been on here and nobody has said nothing. I do want to say something bad about somebody. Those good old Auburn Tigers.
How about them Tigers? Say that's for you guys.
How about them Tigers?
There it is.
Oh boy, I've been waiting. Oh, I forgot all about you, baby Tigers. Did all that talking. Freeze 4. It ain't no freeze 5. You're trash. I just want to throw that out there. I'm sorry.
Trash.
Yes, sir.
John, what stood out to you? Because I have a few teams I have to cook before we get out of here.
So 3 real quick. Penn State overrated. I'm done with them.
Holy
I'm so
hell.
tired of every year this team getting hyped up to watch another James Franklin team fall short or look like complete garbage. Look, Bowling Green is an atrocious team. And the fact, I'm just going to leave it at Penn State's overrated because I can be on this for an hour. Number 2, Brett Bielema has Illinois, in my opinion, rolling, kind of looking good. They're 2-0. Altmaier looks kind of good. I'm not saying they're going to win the Big Ten. All I'm saying is that is a team that can sneak up and bite somebody if you don't pay attention to Illinois. I really like Brett Bielema at Illinois. I thought he did a great job there before. I'm just saying I really like them. And the most important one when I started scanning all the games, right, I went through the schedules and all this stuff, was this. Who on Miami's schedule can beat them? Who? Because they don't play anybody else. I'm just going to point that out. So if you look at the rest of their schedule, they play Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville, Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. There's not a team. They're going to
skull drag Florida State. Holy hell.
There's just not a team where I go, they can definitely lose that game, or they're definitely going to lose that game. Is there possibilities of losses on the schedule? Yes, of course there is every week. But in my opinion, when you look at the rest of Miami's schedule, I mean, what's going to be Mario Cristobal's excuse if he does not at least end up in the ACC championship game this year? Like, I just don't see it. Cam Ward, he looks like the truth, and I don't see anybody beating this team in the regular season. So
sure,
Lance and
Eric, that much there, Jonathan.
Lance and Eric say Clemson, and maybe.
No, I'm talking regular schedule.
Championship.
Yeah. I'm talking regular season here, not championship.
Yeah, the championship is going to be interesting.
Ty, can I give you my
please, coach,
thing of the week really quickly?
Please.
It's a player. I want to recognize a player. I think this kid is playing his way into a day 1 pick. Shout out to Tim Keenan. When he was in the game, that dude was dominating people. He was tossing folks out the club, bro. You know what I'm saying? He was, man. You know what I mean? And I just want to say that.
And to hit the shimmy on him.
Play.
Shout out to all the Kappas out there.
And I'll tell you who else is really, having a good year. Q-Rob, man.
Yeah.
Q-Rob is playing some damn good football, man, and I'm really happy for him. I hate to hear that after the game he lost his father a few days before. That's awful.
That's tough, man.
To go out there with that on your shoulders and to put together his performance. When he was in there, man, he stayed disciplined, and he's really flexing the ability we all hoped we would see out of Q-Rob. He's really flexing that in this defense right now.
Whole fact,
And
man.
I'm loving what I'm seeing out of him. You're 100% right, Coach. Keenan, you and I and some of the guys, Coach Smook, Jance, Brinsky, John, Jake, we all talked about this all offseason. If there's a guy that can step up, I believe it's Tim Keenan, and he could be the next Bama offensive lineman to really take that step forward. So I love that. Now I got to quickly cook two teams. And boy, oh boy, get ready. We're cooking two SEC teams tonight. One, get ready for pulled pork. What the hell was that, Arkansas? First and foremost,
I knew this was coming.
Gundy did something unbelievable. When you're a coach and you're formulating, how can I make sure that the other team doesn't take away my best player from the game? You start getting ways to work that guy in. Coach Sean, Jance, Brinsky. Jance, you already heard me say this, so this isn't going to come as a surprise. John, you already heard me say this, but Brinsky, Jason, Coach Sean. He did something so big-brained, I couldn't fathom it. It was actually impressive. How can I make sure that the other team doesn't nullify my best player? Hell, I nullify him myself. I just don't use him. Brilliant. Brilliant. Truly. Unbelievable stuff, Coach
Brilliant
Gundy.
Casey Dunn and Gundy.
I mean, not utilize, and you still won the game. And I shouldn't even say you won the game. Arkansas did everything to lose that game. Atrocious clock management in the 2-minute drill to end that game. They wasted 10 to 12 seconds trying to spike a ball one time. That should be built in. Oh, we're in the 2-minute drill? Line up, spike it. They wasted 12 seconds, 12 precious seconds. And then, I don't know, the whole 2-minute drill made me just absolutely sick. Absolutely sick. Goof says, didn't Oklahoma State only have 77 yards at halftime? Most of that coming. It was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Arkansas was getting whatever they want, however they wanted, and then the team just kept turning the ball over. It was clock management that made Mario Cristobal proud. I mean, just dastardly stuff there. That was
let him cook. Look at
awful. Arkansas. I don't know what else to say. I will not pick you again in Bleacher Report. I will not. I don't care if you're playing Bishop Sycamore. I'm picking Bishop Sycamore. I don't care if you're playing the School of the Blind and Visually Impaired. I'm picking the School of the Blind and the Visually Impaired. I will not pick Arkansas again. And then, the one I've been waiting for. Hugh Freeze, Auburn. All I've heard all offseason is Peyton Thorne is the guy. You're lucky that they took that interception away. Y'all ended up scoring. That was not a pass interference. That was a good play on the ball. You had 5 interceptions, and you didn't have 14 points. I know that's what the scoreboard said. You got gifted that. Absolutely handed it all wrapped up like Christmas morning, and you still found a way to squander the game. Unbelievable work. Gentlemen, I'm not saying Hugh Freeze is a bad coach, because that would be a lie. He's not a bad coach. But I also think that Hugh Freeze gets this aura around him as if he is in the S tier, the upper echelon of coaches. You've beaten Nick Saban, and then he had the gall to say, oh, well, I should have beat him 4 times. You're lucky to have beaten him how you did. He talked about the voodoo plays that happened that let Alabama win. What about the voodoo plays that let you beat Alabama? I.e., whenever the fumble Ruski happened, y'all remember that? When the ball hit Minka Fitzpatrick in the head, ping-ponged off of like 8 guys, they caught it and ran it in for a touchdown? You didn't talk about that. You talked about all the things that went Alabama's way, but you could have just as easily been winless against Nick Saban. Daniel Petty on the Bama Standard said it best. Called him an asshat. It was hilarious. But then you would take those wins, and then you would lose to Memphis. You would lose to Florida. You would get shut out against teams that you didn't. Hugh Freeze doesn't put complete seasons together. By the way, gentlemen, did y'all know that Auburn has a better record through 15 games with Brian Harsin than they did Hugh Freeze?
Yep.
Did y'all know that Liberty has just continued to cook without Hugh Freeze? Interesting. Very interesting. Incredibly interesting. You can tell me that, oh, Peyton Thorne's just not the guy. You crowned him the guy. So what are we doing here? It's the same reason why I know everybody on Twitter wants to jump on DJU. Don't absolve Mike Norvell. You crowned him the guy. It's not a first or second year player. You have the film and you said, that's who I want. Really? Okay. So listen, I don't know whether you're a tiger, an eagle. You don't know what you are. And it shows up in your play. That was incredible. That game against Cal, incredible. Beautiful to see. Arkansas, Auburn, you embarrass us as SEC teams. Embarrassed. That's all I really have to say. Does anybody have anything else to add?
Not to that, but I will say this. Somebody got to say it. You know, I've seen a lot of comments down here. I just want to say I've been doing content with Coach Jay for over a year now. And not only do he know football, he knows probably more than 90% of people in this chat. So, you know, while we getting on the homie, make sure you understand. I can tell from some of these comments from some of these people.
The guy saying all that. Come on.
Probably couldn't tell you the difference in backpedaling and scooching. Can't tell you the difference in pattern match zone and regular zone.
That's why I hopped in the chat, Coach, and said, I don't have people on my show who don't know ball.
Thank you.
Right.
I don't have anybody on this show that doesn't know ball. And I'm going to let you know, I've been streaming with one person longer than anybody. I love everybody on this panel. But there's one person who I started streaming with, was on my first stream ever, and has been a mainstay of all of my streams. Whether he hops on or not, gets a link to every single one of my streams. That's Jance. I don't have people on this platform that don't know ball. Now, listen, we might disagree on some of the minute details of things. Coaches disagree on some of the minute details of things. That doesn't mean you don't know ball. That just means we view it two different ways. The guy knows football, or else I wouldn't have him on here as much as I do. There's a reason why I've been streaming with this guy.
It's a whole fact.
For how long now, Jance?
Since 21.
Yeah, COVID. Like, as soon as the first stream I ever did, Jance was on it, and he has been a mainstay on the show ever since. I promise you. The guy knows ball.
Thank you.
Guy knows ball.
Ain't no doubt.
Anything else to add, gentlemen? I feel like I've cooked.
Auburn lost to New Mexico State. It's enough said.
Yeah, I guess those in-state recruits. You know, at least they still got those in-state recruits that they like to talk about.
Oh! I'm so glad you brought that up, Chance. You want to know the funniest? You want to know the funniest part about this? All the Auburn people have been telling Bama people, you can't win with them Cal recruits. Guess who just beat you? Cal. Yep. Is that not poetic? I mean,
beautiful. I'm glad you said that. Hey, Deuce, go somewhere else. Go to Ole Miss now. You see what you're going to turn into. Hugh Freeze ain't made no quarterback, my brother. And they're going to lose a couple of those top Alabama recruits. Watch what I tell you. Cam Coleman, get up out of there, my boy. Get up out of there.
Auburn is Texas A&M a couple of years ago. They're buying their way in, but they're not going to be able to hold on to these guys. Not when they see the field and see what's going on.
You got to produce. Yes, you can win in recruiting, but you got to produce. And Auburn ain't producing nothing. Go somewhere else. I'm telling you.
How many 1,000-yard wide receivers has Hugh had?
You probably got AJ Brown and DK.
Nope.
Not even that?
No,
they didn't have 1,000 yards.
They didn't have 1,000.
They looked like world beaters once he left.
Yep. It was after he left. Yeah.
Wasn't it? What's that? It was before AJ Brown. He was a 5-star. What's his name? God damn it.
Laquan Treadwell.
Laquan Treadwell. Wasn't he 1,000 yard receiver?
Was he 1,000-yard?
He probably was. I know he was.
I know Evan Ingram wasn't a 1,000 yard receiver, but he was a god. He was a. We could not cover that dude. When he was at Ole Miss, Evan Ingram was a problem when he was at Ole Miss.
I mean, he definitely was a problem.
I just don't see why anybody wants to play under Hugh Freeze. That's just my only thing. I just don't understand it. I don't know. Y'all just need to get up out of there. You don't want to be forgotten. Get up out of there. Go have better careers somewhere else.
Treadwell went for 1,100 yards his last season. Sorry.
And was he the coach then?
2015.
He was
the coach in 2015. So yeah.
Do you have 1,000-yard wide receiver? I'm proud.
Just one. That's sad.
I'm proud.
I mean, he's better with that 202013 recruiting class and with Robert Nkandichi and Trent. I mean, that he literally illegally bought.
Yes.
Literally got caught for cheating with that recruiting class and never won a national championship with the class, by the way.
Yeah. He got caught with something else too.
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Mike Price style. Yes, he did.
Yep. Throwing those bills up, bro. Get you caught up.
What Boom Howard brother say, Hank love hookers. Hank loves hookers.
Yes, that is all fact. And look, Coach Jay.
Right.
Chris says, Sean, if you know so much about football, what team are you coaching? I coached at JCHS, BJHS. I coached A2 Eagles, 7-on-17 for almost 7 years. I had opportunity to be Miles College running backs coach, and I played college ball. Where you play at? And you said, let's have a battle. What the hell we doing? Having a cipher? What? You answer a question, I answer a question? The hell are you talking about have a battle? Chris, you all right with me, man. But
the man played college football.
Oh man,
what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah, we do off focus. I apologize. Tonight wasn't my best opportunity.
Ask Jake. Look, if Jake is still in the chat, ask Jake where did I FaceTime him from just this past Friday night. I coached at both of them schools, both of them. Stop it, Chris. Okay, so if you played University of Arkansas applying buff, I know DeMarcus Jones, I know Antoine Johnson, I know Kyron Petway, I know Zeke Daniels. I know about 8-9 dudes played at UAPB that I still talk to right now. Let me know what year you played. You talking to the wrong bro with the HBCU, bro. Trust me.
And let me tell you what, he knows players that have gone to Bama because he's coached them.
Yeah, I got one in the chat. Well, one of them in the chat right now. Play at UNA right now. KJ in the chat right now. KJ Fields, look him up. He came from my program. He in the chat right now. Keyway LA.
Yep, but off focus. We're this is. I can't even say we. I am usually much better about being in the chat, but tonight it was just so much conversation going on. The chat was awesome tonight. So many comments and everything. I didn't keep up with it near as well as I should, and that's on me. I can't even say we. That's on me. But yes, I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you getting in the chat, because at the end of the day, the two most important things you have are time and health, and you're spending your time here with us this evening. Gentlemen, let's go around the table. Let everybody know where they can find your great content. Coach Sean, start us off.
You can definitely find me, guys, at JMHO Sports Talk. Shout out to Janet. Janet is always in the house. Much love to Janet, man. Love her to death. JMHO, that's just my humble opinion. That's all it is, man. We just giving our humble opinions. That's all it is. That's what makes for fun. Just my humble opinion. Sports Talk on YouTube and Twitter. And thank you to Ty and all the fellas that's on here. Shout out to my brother Jake and Set the Tone College Football, and shout out to Coach Carl at On the Block Sports Talk. Thank you, Ty. Thank you to all my brothers on the panel.
Jance
Sports on YouTube, Jance 716 on Twitter or X, and then of course Jance Sports, same crap on TikTok and stuff like that. I know Chris got it. I know he sent his reply. He said 98 through 2001 is when he played. So I already know Sean's about. You're no Sean. He's about to verify, man. Because like I said, he ain't gonna get past Sean when it comes to HBCUs, man. We don't play around here.
Rinsky too. Tuskegee.
Yeah, I'm saying if you want to check my football verifications, like I said, just call Coach Williams. Shout out to Erie Community College. That's exactly where I played some of my college ball.
Thank you, Coach Jay.
Players. For the most part, I was able to coach at Cardinal O'Hara High School for like a little bit. Did a little league coaching as well. Shout out to the Buffalo Vets. Shout out to KAT, by the way, AYF champions. That's where I did a little coaching for 3 years. So, like I said, I'll say people can check my football verifications. I don't mind. I'll give you. Don't say you. Like I said, my DMs are always open. So you can, you want to ask for some information, verification. Let me know. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, that's where you can find all those all those particular platforms. And yeah, man, can't wait to be back as usual.
At a certain point, you can't reason with people.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's all.
I don't think this is the first time I've ever seen you do that.
I usually welcome discourse. If you don't agree with me, that's awesome because I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong, cool. I want to learn. I want to learn from being wrong. That's why I have Coach Sean on. That's why if Coach Sean says something, I'll kind of press further because I'm like, oh, well, I thought this. I could very well be wrong. There's no way for me to know that I'm wrong without having these conversations, without putting myself out there. But at a certain point, you just can't reason with people. And that was one of those times. I don't know that I've ever done that before. But yeah, that had to happen. That was ridiculous.
Protect the people, though. Man, you got to protect your boys. That's all there is to it. I don't have to explain it.
That was ridiculous.
Yeah,
Anyways.
Good enough.
Chris.
Oh man. Oh, it's my turn. My fault.
I banned him, Coach Sean. So
Yeah,
he's unfortunately not going to see that.
You don't even got a face on your profile, bro. Stop it.
Yeah. I at a certain point, I was just like, "You're just." I don't know. I don't even know what to say. I'm at a loss for words. Brinsky, go ahead.
Oh, my fault. Well, Brinsky Sharp here, the Sharpshooters Podcast. We literally 29 subs away from 600. So you guys see it in the chat. Make sure you guys go there. And appreciate Ty, the superstar, that should be getting a lot of opportunities that I don't think he's been getting. He deserves it all. I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you, Coach Sean, my dog, Jance, Jason. You know I love you, brother.
Love you too, bro.
And John, just meeting you not too long ago, and you're a good dude, man. I see you just hit over 200 subs. Now let's get
quick.
Now let's get this man to 300 subs.
Yeah,
like a week and a half. Shit.
I know. I know, bro. Sean D, UGA.
Yep.
Yeah. Listen, we can disagree, but second you start coming for people after we've told you, that's when it ends.
He's a Hall of Fame regular, man. Sean's awesome, man. Like having him. So.
I'm more fine with y'all coming at me than anybody else on the panel.
True that. You can come at Jason. Me. I'll mess with that. Yeah. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame college football. You can find me. It's actually at HOF-CFB now. I changed it after the whole last thing, but yeah, man. Happy to be back in here and get to talk ball with all. I love coming on this panel, man. It's always fun.
I asked about you, Jason. I asked.
I didn't hear Belt to Ass today, so I am a little disappointed in that there, Coach Sean. But I'm pretty sure you probably said it before I showed up, but I didn't get to hear Belt to Ass. So
me too, man.
Man. Happy to be in here, man, for sure, and good to see you. Thanks for having me on, and hey, man, you guys are welcome on the show anytime. We'll be on tomorrow night, as a matter of fact, if anybody wants to jump in.
Love it. Well, luckily you got to see. You may not have heard him say B to A.
I did watch him put Bell to Ass though.
Coach I.
Fact. He's reappeared.
Right at the end of the show.
At the end of the show, I just scrolled down and saw you. You might not have heard him say belt to ass, but you saw him apply belt to ass, and
I did. Yeah.
That's what matters.
Jan's the homie, man. We can't do that, bro. Don't be doing that, man.
Jance is the man too.
I tried reasoning him with him in the comments, and it just wasn't happening.
I didn't even know he was even saying anything, man. See, I just pointed it out, but
yeah, I'd replied to him like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm not going to have anybody on my channel that I don't think knows ball." And like, I in his worldview, there's only one correct answer. And that's a dangerous worldview to have, because a lot of the times you can view something and you might be justified, but you still could be wrong, right? Which is why I have all these people on the panel, which is why I welcome debate on the panel, which is why I welcome debate in the comments, because I could think something and then Coach I could tell me you're dead wrong. In fact, last year I tweeted something like, I think, Bama has all these ranked wins, and Coach I instantly hit me, Washington has them. And I looked up, I was like, damn, he's 100%. And I replied to him, I was like, you're right.
He quit.
You're right. You're right. My bad. You're right. Only one worldview is something I just don't get. Like, embrace being wrong. I think if more people embraced being wrong, you have opportunities to learn. I'm dumb as hell. I need to learn everything I can, or else, God forbid, you ask my wife, if my head wasn't attached to my body, it'd be a bad day. I would lose it. So that type of mindset, I just don't understand. But John, let the people know where they can find all of your great stuff.
As far as YouTube goes, Bama Talk with John. As far as Twitter goes, at BT with John. And talking about learning, that's why I love getting on these panels, because I learn so much from you guys, to be honest with you. There's so much I don't know. Right. So I never coached. I never played in D1, nothing like that. I just enjoy talking football. And I spent about 14 hours reviewing film on Wisconsin last night, learning their defense. And I'm releasing my first video where I'm actually trying to explain a 2-4-5 defense, right? A 3-4 in a dollar package that we're going to be experiencing. So I'm going to be hitting that as private and sending that to Coach Sean to look at before I release that. But it's my first put myself.
If this defense, send it to Jake.
Okay, there we go. So, you know what I mean? I'm putting myself out there to learn and
mastermind, man.
Do what?
He's a defensive mastermind.
Yeah. So
defense, I'm on me and Jans. If it's defense, send it to Jake. Me, Smook, and Jans sort of
offense.
Right, if it's Jake, if you still in the chat, defense, bro.
So there you go. So I'll be releasing that in the next probably day, piecing that together. And I'm just trying to teach myself, right, making these videos, and then because what I'm learning through here as well. But no, I love getting on here. Thank you, obviously, for the invites. And you guys know, anytime you want to jump on the show, just let me know.
And Coach I, you were a part of the show for long enough. Once again, let everybody know where they can find all your great stuff.
Well, like none of you mofos. No, I'm just kidding, man.
That's fair.
All y'all my people, man. No, man, Fanatic Sports, man. Y'all, tomorrow, Respect the Hedges. We'll be talking about what to expect from UGA and Kentucky. I don't think it's got to be like dog fans think it is.
Really? Okay, don't go into any more details, because that is the perfect way to... What's the line from Blades of Glory? Nobody knows what it means, but it gets the people going, right? That's how we're going to leave this. Nobody knows what he means, but it's going to get the people going. Y'all are going to have to tune into that. What time is that, Coach I?
8 o'clock on Respect the Hedges. We actually got the Respect the Hedges got its own channel now. So go to Respect the Hedges or at Respect the Hedges. All one word. That's right.
Yeah, hey, that's a hell of a line to knock us all back down to our realities. But we've had a loaded panel. There has been one guest that sits idly by.
Before you say it, Ty, shout out to Coach Al too. Coach Al is the OG of I. Look, when I got a question, I call Coach Al. Coach Al. Coach Ricks, and Coach Al in the chat. Both of them in the chat. Trust me, they don't get no better than them guys.
100%. And to quickly answer your clothing, everybody has a chance against anybody. I don't know that their scheme matches up as well as like USF's in terms of tempo, but you can't write off anybody in college football. That's just the beautiful game about it, right? It's just the beautiful game about it. But there's been one member of this panel that sits so patiently as we're all jumping on the bit. Coach I, you missed me cooking Auburn, by the way. It was glorious. As we're all jumping at the bit, this guy waits, and he's got the last word of every stream, and that's the spinning wheel of doom. And it spins.